Hey everybody, welcome to the Hang Up here on the line. We are just a few short days away from the voting, even though early voting has started here in Texas for the Texas primary for the United States Senate seat. Jasmine Crockett, who is currently a U.S. representative, has, as of today, a double-digit lead over James Tallarico, who's a state representative, in their bid for that Democratic primary for that Senate seat. Currently, she's 56 to 44. Now, Crockett has the support of 87% of black voters. She also has an edge with seniors and folks without college degrees, and a narrow 4% lead with Hispanic voters. And James Tallarico has a narrow 6% edge with white voters. That's from a UT vote poll today, or that was released today. Other polls have her with about an 8% lead instead of 12. I am undecided, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. And I've changed my mind about a dozen times. On the Republican side of this, I'm decided. Fuck them both. But right now, Paxton leads Cornyn 36 to 34. So neither one of them are, have this a done deal. I think the speculative polls have Paxton edging this out. But which of the two Democrats has the best policy positions? That's my first question. And which of the two Democrats has the best chance to beat Paxton? And which has the best chance to beat Cornyn? Because we're not sure which one they're going to be running against. And that question is potentially more important. And I don't have a clue. We never really have a clue. We're kind of always running on hopes and polls. And then in hindsight, we still wind up arguing about what we should have done. And people don't agree on what we should have done. And it's difficult. There's a lot of work that goes involved in this, and I understand why a lot of people just opt to not vote. I spent quite a bit of time going over all of their policies, or I should say what I could find about all their policies. For those of you not in Texas, yeah, you're not going to get to vote for these two specifically, but what's happening here is important, and there's some stuff at the end that's going to impact you where you are as well. So, if neither Democrat has any real shot at beating either Republican, I will vote for the one that best represents my values and has what I think are the best positions. I still go back and forth on that issue. As of this moment, before I reread what I wrote, I'm leaning towards Jasmine Crockett. If I'm convinced that one of these two Dems has a better shot at winning against either Cornyn or Paxton, that's who I'm voting for. Like, even if I was really heavily leaning towards Jasmine and it turned out that all the polling information showed that James has a better chance of beating both of the Republicans, that's who'll get my vote. Because if I had to pick, I'd say that she's more of a fighter. I don't know who has a better shot. Tallarico has spent about 4 times as much money on ads, which is also really interesting. For a state representative versus a federal rep, to have spent that much is kind of, I don't know, concerning. And he had that viral Colbert interview. And his take on this election is that it's not a left-right fight, but a top-bottom fight. Jasmine Crockett is focused more on opposing Trump and is running a bit on the view that she's not a passive doormat like the establishment Dems. And like I said, if I had to pick, I'd say she's more of the fighter. But I'm not sure that she'd actually be any less of a doormat than the rest of the establishment Dems. She has fallen in line with establishment Dem positions and roles many times. She's a badass. I loved her long before I knew who James Tallarico was. We have a broken system, horribly broken. And both candidates are pointing this out, but neither truly addresses it the way I'd like to see it addressed. Both parties aren't the same, but they're often working for the same people and the same dollar bills. What civil rights you have, and who gets protected, who gets killed, who earns a living wage, who has access to health care, all of those are dice rolls And all we're doing is determining who gets to roll the dice once we've made sure that the corporate billionaires are going to get their cut no matter who wins. The current administration, I did not watch the State of the Union address. That's why I'm not talking about it. I don't care. The man's a vile, disgusting liar who is off the rails, and there's literally nothing that he could have said last night that I wouldn't have been able to glean 100% of its value out of a 10-second summary from whatever reel popped up. Curiously, I'm kind of off social media, but I did spend a good chunk of the day on YouTube and researching stuff. I didn't really see too many summaries other than it was a long State of the Union. Because the current administration is a stream of lies. And the only real defense is, well, both sides lie. All sides lie. They're all corrupt. They do, and they are. But they're not all equally corrupt, and they don't all have the same impact. If you think masked ICE agents would be invading cities if the Dems had won, you're simply not in touch with reality. And if you think we still would have lost abortion rights if Republicans hadn't illegally blocked a Supreme Court seat, you are not in touch with reality. Nobody's talking about climate change anymore. That's a luxury conversation. We have descended into fascism where that's just not a conversation any of us can remotely have. We have no capacity right now to change the way that money corrupts the system because the rot is far too thorough. Revolution needs to come in some form or another. So on the issues, if you're a Texas voter, is Jasmine Crockett better than James Tallarico here? I'm genuinely not sure. When I try to find out what policy differences there are, I'm more impressed by what they don't say sometimes than what they do say. During their debate, they were both asked about things like ICE, and Tallarico's view is to repeal and replace with an agency that is actually going to focus on public safety, which might sound better, but that also sounds like policing and not immigration enforcement, which is something that should actually exist. How about replace with an immigration department that improves and streamlines the immigration process and enforces that process, which is what some of us thought ICE was originally supposed to be. Jasmine Crockett also wants changes, but not really specific about it. Neither of them will call for defunding or abolishing ICE, but Tallarico might come slightly closer to that. They both want to tax the incredibly wealthy and corporations. That's an easy thing to say. I'm glad they're on board with that. But Crockett also sided with Trump and the Republicans on crypto. I don't know how bad that is, but, Tallarico didn't have the opportunity to oppose it, but would he? There's some discussion about slight differences in their views on healthcare. On the one hand, Tallarico is very clear that he considers healthcare a right. I don't think I've heard that expressly from Jasmine Crockett, but they both support either Medicare for all or Medicare for y'all. And I'm not sure which one is better and haven't been able to dig in enough to find out. They're both Christians. Crockett is a Baptist. Tallarico is a Presbyterian. He's a minister in training. And he's called out the whitewashing of history books. But he also opts for some pie in the sky. Let's hope that love can fix the bigots crap. And while I don't think people choose their beliefs, I don't think just being lovey around people or building a love coalition that they're excluded from is likely to change bigots' minds. She is a no-nonsense lawyer and an undeniable badass and is really fun to watch. Like, I feel like she's going to get some stuff done. He slightly edges her out on broader vocal support for queer rights, including, if you think about it, if you go to their Wikipedia page, you can see a very short list of their positions. Her webpage lists more than her Wikipedia page, and nowhere on either of them did I find anything about, let's say, gender-affirming care for minors. That's a position that may not be immediately important to you. It certainly isn't the biggest deal, and actually it's been a boogeyman that's been raised, but not talking about it also says something. And Tallarico, despite being a Presbyterian, gonna-be minister, wanna-be minister, I don't know, is clear on his website or on Wikipedia that he supports gender-affirming care for minors. And you know that there's people from both of these campaigns who are checking Wikipedia daily for any changes. So that stuff should be up to date and good. She vaguely supports LGBTQIA rights, but I couldn't find anything specific. Neither one of them go far enough to suit me on Israel. He might edge her out just slightly on Israel, mostly because he wasn't in a position to do the voting, and she did vote to support funding their genocide. I don't know that either of them has even used the word genocide, but either or both of them might have, and I just haven't heard it. If they did, it was probably when it wasn't inconvenient to reference it obliquely. That would be my bet. She's almost certainly better on the law, as she's a lawyer. I don't know for sure who wins out on healthcare, but I think she edges it out. And because of that, with her legal and federal expertise, I'm probably leaning towards her still. But I've changed my mind a couple times just today. There are atheists who are having a knee-jerk reaction to him because he's a minister and a child of ministers, and he talks about his faith a lot. But he's also the one who's been most explicitly opposed to Christian nationalism and most explicitly favoring gender-affirming care and LGBT rights, which, no matter how important you think it is, what you say about it is important. But I've known plenty of atheists that I would never, ever vote for. So whether or not somebody's a believer or an atheist isn't the prime criteria. It's how those views impact their positions on issues. And so far, I don't have too big of a problem with his version of Christianity, apart from it's a little Pollyannish. Weirdly, neither of them really talk about impeachment, but when they were asked about it, they both lean towards impeachment if it's done right. If it's done right, like they'll say he's done stuff that probably deserves impeachment, but they're only in favor of it if it's done right. As if we're asking them to do it wrong. This is just 100% politician talk. The folks who are endorsing Tallarico talk about how we can't just be anti-Trump. That's not enough. Fucking stop that. It's not just anti-Trump. It's pro-civil rights. It's pro-truth. It's pro-integrity. It's pro-civility. It's pro-climate. It's pro-healthcare and NATO and UN and due process and LGBTQ rights and equality and healthcare and dignity and living wage and education and science. It's anti-fascism. It's anti-lying. It's anti-dictator. It's anti-obscene wealth. It's anti-protecting sex traffickers and corporate greed and medically induced bankruptcy and poverty and starvation and measles and racism and homophobia and government scrubbing factual information from websites. And it should be anti-establishment politics, because it's establishment politics that frames this ethical collection of positions as anti-Trump, merely because he physically embodies all of that in one disgusting package. But he's not the only one. He didn't create Project 2025. Neither did Governor Abbott, who's also a problem, along with a lot of the other right-wing monsters. The problem is the parade of unqualified, underqualified, bootlicking sycophants in charge of every branch and department of the government. The podcasters and influencers at the FBI and Homeland Security and DOD and CDC. It's the news anchors, the puppy killers, the wrestling moms, the rich, crazy nephews, the billionaires and their flunkies chartering planes that they can fuck on and fly off to the Olympics on. This is about saving our country from the most vile destruction it has ever faced. It's not anti-Trump. Anti-Trump is just your way of hand-waving all that stuff away so you can avoid talking and taking a stand for anything beyond the softer, gentler side of our corporate masters. That is, by and large, the Democrats. Until we put people over profits, I'll have to opt for the side that leans more that direction, even if it doesn't lean far enough. Tonight's guest is Brady Goodwin, a former Christian, retired rapper, seminarian, who I really want to welcome and ask how he deals with all this stuff, even though he doesn't get to vote in the Texas election. And we can have a discussion, I guess, about whether or not James Tallarico is a little too lovey-dovey Christian to be effective. But how are you doing, man?
I'm doing excellent, man. Thanks for having me on the program again.
Always a pleasure.
Can I just raise a glass to you? That intro you just gave should be snipped and replayed around the world. You summed it up so beautifully.
Thank you.
So, yeah,
I'm
appreciate
sure it'll
that.
be snipped and played somewhere. I'm sure I'll be snipped and no longer allowed to be played somewhere as well.
No, that was excellent.
When I know you're not in Texas, and but you're seeing this stuff, and we've seen the Dems and the left fail. How cooperative? Like Tallarico definitely wants to take his kinder, gentler Christianity, pretend like it's the true Christianity, that it's all about love, ignore the bad parts, and try to convince people to, be pro queer, pro healthcare, pro, ending poverty. Is he just dreaming?
Well, I think you used the right word, but you said it was kind of Pollyannish, like just this. I'm conflicted because I feel like even though he is kind of Pollyannish with his take on things and what we need right now in this time, I look at Jasmine, and as much as I love her, I almost feel like she's too much of a firebrand for what needs to happen right now. Now, I don't know what it's like there in Texas. I don't know what, the spirit of the good old boys there in Texas is like. Like, could they find themselves getting behind somebody like a Jasmine Crockett as much as she's, argumentative and willing to, stand firm on her own too. But I feel like somebody like Tallarico might be a little more palatable. And we need whatever is going to help turn the tide. Like, I think Jasmine Crockett would have been great for politics the way they were a couple of years ago. But the way things are right now, you need to build as big a tent as you possibly can. And I don't know if she can build that big tent.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I have no idea. I've gone back and forth on this, like, ooh, which one's going to have a better reach and which one's going to be more effective. And,
Mm,
don't get me wrong, I'm still leaning toward Jasmine Crockett because of the experience, because she's a lawyer, and people are like,
mhm.
oh, let's get the lawyers out of government. No, you want lawyers there. They're the experts in making
Right,
laws. When,
right.
when non-lawyers start making laws, that's how you end up outlawing all marriage while you're trying to prevent your gay
Mm.
friends from getting married. Um, it's just kind of sloppy stuff. But I don't know if I genuinely don't know. I don't know how you build that. Now I sent you a clip that some people were kind of concerned about because he's standing in a church, which already concerns some of my atheist friends, and I get it.
Mm.
But he's basically saying he wants to build a coalition of love between the Latinx community and these other communities and others that is so great that it might ultimately help liberate white nationalists. Uh, and I had a very, very brief disagreement, which we
Mm.
didn't continue, with someone who was like, no, 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 fuck that. They chose that. And I'm like, no, they didn't. You don't really choose your beliefs, but I get what you
Mm.
mean. Um,
Mm.
do you think, I mean, does this softer Christianity's all about love, let's ignore the problems? Is that a better path I'm never going to do it because I'm not going to lie.
Mhm.
But do you think it would be a more effective path than someone like Jasmine just saying, I'm a Baptist, none of your damn business. It ain't got nothing to do with the government. I'm
Yeah,
doing my job.
yeah. See, maybe I'm being a little shrewd, but I'm thinking about this in terms of, like I said, building that big tent. How can you give as many people as possible the impression that they're going to get something that they want out of your ascendancy? And so to the white Christian nationalists, they may not get the nationalist part from him, but they'll get the Christian part from him. Is he going to help them get something Christian in their government? And if Jasmine is the type that says, no, my faith doesn't come into this, I mean, it grounds my morals, but it's not going to come into my, and yet James is like, no, I'm following the Jesus of, feed the poor, and I'm following the Jesus. It at least gives them something that makes them say, okay, we're getting something out of this, even if we're not getting the white nationalist part.
It, I don't know that there's any easy answer for this. By the way, in a few minutes, we're going to start taking calls. 720-619-2288. Also down below here, there's a link for you to call using the web thing. I'll go over the details of the call stuff. Um, you know, I can put on my Southern Baptist hat,
Mm,
and I would have looked at James Tallarico and I would have said, he's not a real Christian.
mm,
I would have looked at him
same.
and said, he's taken the love message and he's ignored the consequences, and he's ignored the warning, and he's ignored that you'll be persecuted in my name's sake, and he's ignored that I've come only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He's ignored bits and pieces because he wants a touchy-feely, gay-friendly
Mm. All
Christianity.
inclusive.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
it's definitely a big tent. But also my version of Christianity was, wide is the way that leadeth to
Yeah.
destruction.
Yeah.
There is no big tent.
Yeah.
Um, the numbers, God knows exactly what the numbers are, has said what they are, and doesn't have to spend much time counting, that type of thing.
Mm.
And I get that I was raised in a biblical literalist, fundamentalist, not quite Westboro Baptist Church, but I think we would have agreed with what Westboro had to say. We
Mm.
wouldn't have agreed with how they said it.
Right.
We would have said what Westboro said, but we would have
Yeah.
sounded more like Tellerico.
Yeah. Mm.
How do you, I mean, I've watched you have really good discussions with, pastors, and unlike me, you actually attended seminary. How do you figure out how best to work with people you disagree with, and where do what's your process for figuring out to draw the line? Are you like, let's have a big tent if it gets us progress, or are there some things you're not willing to compromise on? Like, is it? I don't want to. Is it more
Mm.
important? There's a bunch. Let's just be frank. There's a bunch of black women who are running for the Senate, and I'd love to see them fucking take over, if for no other reason than we need this sort of sea change. I just don't know that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to vote for somebody just because of their color, because of their religion, or anything else.
Well, I would probably go the opposite direction. This would be an interesting conversation because I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this as a black man, but there's a part of me that's looking past the Senate race in Texas. I know that Tallarico is gearing up for a presidential run. Everyone is the rumors, the murmuring is there. And because I know you're not going to run somebody black for president from the Democrats in 2028. It's not going to happen because of the white Christian nationalist thing. Whoever's going to run against Trump is going to need to be somebody white. It's probably going to need to be a white man just because of how frail a lot of the white men in the country have been over DEI.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking part of the reason why I want Tallarico to win this Senate race is this is going to be his trial run for the presidency. And we need the on ramp to start now to build some kind of momentum because something needs to change at the executive level, not just with Congress. And so, even as a black man, I'm thinking ahead saying, we need whatever to happen is that needs to happen to get somebody to run against Trump that's valid, that's viable. And I think that's what needs to happen here.
Well, I don't. I think he's still way too young to do a 2028 run. I mean, I've heard rumblings, but
Mm-hmm.
um, and on that front, I mean, it is kind of funny because I think I'd rather have Jasmine run for president.
In a
Now, on the
perfect
one
world,
hand,
yeah.
I spent the last, I don't know how many hours, days, whatever, trying to get to know both of them. As far as I can tell, yeah, somebody in chat can correct me. Um, I think they're both single. Um, Maybe they should just get married and run for like co-president, president, vice president.
That'll do
They
it.
can shift each other a little on their positions.
Yeah.
Maybe they shouldn't get married. Maybe it should just be a ticket at some point. But I like the fact that there's stuff happening in Texas that might make people, hey, could it go blue? Because let's be
That's
honest,
crazy. That's crazy.
I will take either
Mm.
Jasmine Crockett or James Tallarico in the Senate for Texas over Paxton or Cornyn. It's not even close. Neither one of them, they don't support the basics of church-state separation. They are going. Paxton is along with with Governor Abbott. They are yes Trump bootlickers right down the line. Trump, 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 Trump. I was this past weekend in Corpus Christi, which is in South Texas, and I was watching. I was in a hotel because I was there for Reptile Expo, and I saw ads on TV. I don't have cable. I watch stuff on YouTube, and I am on YouTube Premium, so I don't even see ads. So I haven't seen a lot of political ads, and so I saw my first real political ads for Texas this week. Holy crap! One of them started off with Zoran Mamdani saying that he's a democratic socialist. And I think it was Jasmine Crockett saying that we need to emulate Mamdani. So they're so terrified of the mayor of New York. Let's be honest, though, the mayor of New York has more control than the governors of several states. But they're more concerned about what he has to say and painting Jasmine as a democratic socialist. When I don't think that's a fair painting for her. I wish it was. I'd like her even more. And then they're like, Governor Abbott and this person, Ken Paxton, they'll vote with Trump every time. Stand up against the crazy socialist Democrats. And I'm like, if your entire campaign ad is, I'm going to vote with Trump every time. These people, they have no thoughts of their own. It is just, I need to get elected, and sucking up to Trump is the way to do it. And what's unfortunate is I don't know that I fully see what Tallarico or Crockett truly think about things other than what they think should get them elected.
Yeah.
And that's the politicking.
Yeah.
We're going to get to calls in a minute, but our lovely and talented super producer has some announcements to make. So, Arden, come on in.
Hey, y'all. So real quick, you may have noticed we are for the first time dual streaming to horizontal and vertical. So there are 2 chats and 2 streams. However, there is a bug going on right now in chat that has basically mostly erased the messages of the Line's channel when I chat as the Line, and it's deleting a lot of messages from our mods too. We are still moderating, so don't think you can get away with nonsense, but we aren't able to pin messages in chat like that the lines are open. So the lines are currently open. The number is 720-619-2288. Or if you are outside the US and Canada, there is a web link in the description as well. Theists get priority in the queue. But yes, we will not be able to participate in chat quite as readily. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that, and to have our hosts remind the chat after like every call probably that lines are open. So yes, if you're confused about all the weirdness and the differentness, it's because on top of a voluntary change, there's a weird bug that YouTube is suffering from. So yes, but the show will proceed as normal. Anyway.
Sweet. We have a bug. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to take calls. And here's the thing. If you have thoughts about the elections and what's going on, how you're going to make your decision, I'm definitely interested in that. I'd really like to know kind of people's thoughts on what we can do to fix stuff. Because, I mean, none of us are happy with the way things are going. And I don't see a path to great change. And I watch, and people are like, oh, I saw some people complaining about purity tests, and I don't think that's the issue. I saw people complaining, that, oh, you'll only vote for the perfect candidate. No, I don't think it's, I'm not a Democrat. I pretty much despise a good chunk, and I think, as I made clear in the opening, of the establishment Democrat stuff. I think they are the softer, gentler supporters of our corporate masters. But if you only have the option between the softer, gentler supporters and the harsher fascist supporters, then I'll take the softer, gentler ones. If you have thoughts on what true religion or true Christianity is, or how it might be true, I'll even entertain notions about how it might be useful. I won't be using it, but if there are people out there, like, I'm genuinely annoyed and irritated by the I'm spiritual but not religious people, and the, oh, I'm an atheist friendly, queer friendly, lovey-dovey hippie Christian who doesn't know shit about, the Bible or, or Orthodox views or anything else, and just thinks Jesus just wants us all to love each other and everybody's going to be saved. And I've invented my cool. Today's your day to call in and either try and justify it or tell me why I should go easier on that version of bullshit. It's like coming in and telling, I'm here, trying to fight disease. And one version of Christianity is cancer, and the other one is athlete's foot. And you're trying to tell me that I shouldn't treat the athlete's foot. And I'm like, why can't I treat that too? I mean, wouldn't it be better to not have either? But maybe we're just stuck with one of them. Maybe you have to have athlete's foot to get rid of cancer. Who knows? All right. We have callers lined up already. Ben's an atheist calling from Washington, says ICE agents are able to arrest first before due process. That's justified because it's the law. Ben, they're able to arrest without a warrant, but they have to have probable cause. That is the due process up to that point. So are we in agreement there?
Hi, yes. So the last time we talked, you mentioned
I'm sorry,
no
Ben.
due process.
I'm sorry, Ben. I just asked a question.
Yes.
So ICE agents are able to arrest with probable cause, not before due process. Probable cause is the due process for the arrest, but they're not able to enter private residences without a judicial warrant, not an administrative warrant, right?
Yes, they can arrest without a warrant, and if
I'm
they
sorry,
have a reason to
Ben,
believe.
Ben, I'm sorry. You're answering something that I'm not asking. ICE can make arrests ICE can make arrests with probable cause, but they generally can't enter private residences without a judicial warrant, correct?
Yes.
Cool. Then we're in agreement. Thanks for calling. All right. For those of you who don't know, Ben and I have had a few conversations on this, and Ben suffers greatly from co-host syndrome and is desperately confused that he thinks ICE is doing a great thing and thinks that we don't understand it. And so he called in today to say that ICE doesn't require due process to make an arrest. And I was pointing out that the probable cause is the due process for an arrest, but they generally can't enter private residences without a judicial warrant. Administrative warrants don't allow that. So thanks for calling to agree with me, Ben. That's a nice change. All right. Constantine's calling from Greece. Constantine's an atheist, prone to him. Has, I guess, some question about a naturalistic God. Hey, Constantine, how are you?
Hello, I'm okay. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Pretty good.
Okay. I'm sorry I'm not that much on topic. I live in Greece, so I inherently don't don't have a lot to
No, it's
say.
fine. Go ahead.
I just wanted mostly you, Matt, to kind of give me a beat down on my beliefs. I guess I'm still deconstructing in many ways. I've called many times. I've called you actually and Dr. Adair some other time. And the last thing I guess that I have from my religious beliefs is I know that it's completely useless for you and it's a completely personal belief that God is nature. And I know that it doesn't have any actual value when it comes to truth. But I was wondering if it's moral or good or righteous, I guess, to kind of, I don't know, use that on people who are struggling, because many times when I have conversations with theists, it's at a low point, and usually I want to help them come to the truth, but also I don't want to remove, I guess, the beauty that they see in creation. It's kind of like an argument that you've heard, I guess, many times. They look at the trees. Like as an artist, it has really helped me in the past, looking at nature and the beauty of it, which I know are completely natural and there's no reason to stick a god there, but just the beauty of it has gotten me through some tough times, and I don't know if it's good for me to get to take that away from people.
How are you taking anything away from people by saying you don't agree, don't share their views, or find something irrational? You're not taking away. It's like I'm a magician. I perform magic on stage and close up, and there I don't tell how any of the tricks are done during the show, apart from one that is used for teaching. Because for several reasons. One is that some people don't want to know how it's done. And the bigger reason is if I tell you how it's done, you think you know how it's done. When you don't, there's many different ways to do stuff. You think you can't be fooled and you can. But I think you're giving yourself too much credit. I get plenty of value and inspiration out of the beauty of nature. Nature isn't any less beautiful now that I don't believe in a God. And nobody took that away from me. You're either convinced of something or not. So I'm not sure you're giving yourself maybe too much credit, but I'm confused. I thought you were deconstructing, and now you're talking about having discussions with believers where you're worried that you might be taking away, I don't know, their hope, their inspiration. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, like I'm sorry, I'm really stressed. I guess I consider I still pose as a religious person, and I don't do really good with labels. So I don't know if I am an atheist or some other kind of theist that believe is agnostic, I guess. Well, yeah. So I'm not quite
I'm not.
clear on what
I'm not
I
really
am.
concerned about
Actually.
the. I'm sorry. I'm not that concerned about the label, Constantine. Are you worried? I'm not quite sure I understand what you're worried you're doing. What could you possibly do? Like, do you think you're hurting people?
Yeah, I think. Well, now that uh, I I just had an epiphany right now. I realize, yeah, I'm giving myself too much. Well, I am giving fees too too little credit. I just realized that. The, I'm really sorry, Matt. This was kind of a useless call. Now that I think about it.
Maybe not. Brady?
No. Well,
Yeah, but
I would say this.
you really
I just thought about this when Matt was speaking a minute ago. You're afraid that you might be taking something away from people by removing God as the explanation. But I don't think it's just people that you're afraid that you're taking this away from. I think you're also afraid that you'd be taking it away from yourself because you haven't really deconstructed all this yet. But I will say this, rather than worrying about taking away something that people might need to give them hope and inspiration, what if by deconstructing all the way and removing the God from the equation, what if you introduce others and yourself to a whole new level of wonder, a whole new level of investigation, a whole new level of awe and rapture that you would have never been able to get to as long as you were keeping God in the place blocking you from that? Are you worried about that?
Yes, I am actually worried about that, and I am afraid of. I guess, yeah. This is kind of a coping mechanism for me. I don't do it consciously. I just, whenever I find something that I like about nature, like evolution or humans creating art, or the incredible feats of willpower that some humans are capable of. When I see all that, I don't immediately think in my mind that those are natural things. My mind immediately goes to its magic. It's something beyond comprehension that, yeah, it's inherently like mysterious and like magic, kinda. This is what I think, and I know it's not correct, and it's not a rational thought. That's why I called.
Hmm.
Do you think
Yeah.
so? So yeah, I should stop doing that.
There's a song that we used to sing. Well, they probably still sing it in the churches here. Maybe they sing it where you are. The song that we sung in church says, I'm lost in wonder. I'm lost in love. I'm lost in praise forevermore. And they talk about all these things that they get lost in because they're thinking about what the God of the Bible has done. But I can attest, and I'm sure Matt and many others who have moved as far as atheism could, I'm no less lost in wonder. I'm no less lost in awe. I'm even more in awe now. And so I don't think you would have to, like, if you embrace where the evidence leads, if the evidence doesn't lead to a God, it still is going to lead to wonder. It's probably going to lead to more wonder. I would say embrace that, chase that.
I remember Oprah Winfrey once, who I pretty much actively despise Oprah Winfrey. But I called her out because she, in her ignorance, sat there on her show one time and said how she felt sad for atheists because they can't experience wonder. and I immediately went on the show, another show, and pointed out, of course we can. Wonder is what drives scientific discovery, by the way. wonder is what encourages people to create art, to ask questions. If you're not wondering, you're not asking any questions. You're not seeking any truth. Is it possible that the wonder inspired by nature can send you down a path to seeking things that aren't there and wishing there were fairies that made the flowers or gods that made the flowers? Yes, you can take that too far once you reach conclusions that aren't warranted.
Yeah.
But the inspiration itself, I mean, the number of times that I sit around just overwhelmed at the raw talent of a human being writing a song and singing a song. When Bruce Springsteen did his Streets of Minneapolis, I wept like a baby. I, on that 3-hour drive down to Corpus Christi to do the Reptile Expo, I started off, the first song I played, because what I do is I use my YouTube music Google playlist, and I pick a song and I let it build a playlist for me. And for the last couple of years, it's been building playlists based on Chappell Roan and Sabrina Carpenter, or some classic rock, or, you know, occasionally something else. This time I started with Jesse Wells' song Join Ice. And it's awesome. And apart from him appearing on Joe Rogan, which really disappointed me, apart from that, he's like our modern John Prine, who was stolen from us by COVID. But it put together an incredible playlist of protest songs. Just not just like Alice's Restaurant or This Land Is Your Land, but I mean, Grandpa Was a Liberal. Who Would Jesus Bomb? If you haven't looked up these songs like this, like Who Would Jesus Bomb? I don't care. That is a use of Christianity that, even if Christianity is not true, it exposes the hypocrisy in what some people are doing. Who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine or maybe Vietnam? Would he bomb the atheist, the Muslim, or the Jew? You know, would Jesus run a bank? It's great. I mean, it's awesome. I got this incredible playlist, all because I let one song take me down a path, and I sat there and I felt almost happy for the first time in a while that there were other people whose frustration at what they had seen, and not just wondering at beauty, but wondering at ugliness, wondering at hatred.
Wow.
Wondering at why we are the way we are.
Yeah.
Encourage them to write things that reach out to others and bring us closer together. And none of that requires any kind of a God.
Yeah. So would it be fair, I guess, instead of doing what I am doing until now, where I go and say, like, this is magical, this is like incomprehensible and all that, would it be fair to say it is what it is? Like, it is just something that it is, whether it's inspiration or wonder or other such concepts. That's fair, right?
Well, I don't know what the justification is for saying something's truly magical, just like I don't know what the justification is for saying it's truly supernatural. But metaphorically magical, I got no problem with that. Here, look.
Oh, okay.
I just magically pulled off part of my finger. There's metaphorical magic all over the world. That's what wonder is. Wonder is, I don't know how this is, but I'm curious about it. It has sparked something in me that makes me want to know what the answer is. That's magic. Supernatural is a completely different thing. You don't have to think that there's actual fairies that sprinkle the flowers with glitter. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now it just clicked for me. It's, for some reason, I was, the concept of metaphors hadn't sunk in yet. I actually have a suggestion of a hip hop group for you, Matt, because the wordplay and the lyricism they have, I think, and they are, I think, mostly atheists. Rhyme Asylum, check them out. Check their UK rappers. They've stopped now, but but
Did you say Rhyme
there are
Asylum?
Rhyme Asylum, yeah.
Rhyme Asylum.
Are you familiar with them, Brady?
Yeah,
No, I've heard the name, but I've never heard their music.
I will check it out.
they have
Thanks.
they have some edgy lyrics, but it's not like fascists or anything like that, anything hateful. They're just edgy for the to make a rhyme with metaphors. Yeah, I think you would appreciate the talent at least, if not the music.
Well, keep thinking, and don't stress too much about you stealing away somebody's wonder. You can't steal away somebody's wonder. They either give it up on their own, or they never give it up. And you don't have to give up wonder. You don't have to give up curiosity. You don't have to give up art. You don't have to give up beauty. The only thing you have to give up is deception. When you cure a disease, you don't replace it with something. The cure is the replacement. Thanks, Constantine. And I stole that from Dennis Lubay, but appreciate the call. Take care of yourself. We got some other calls coming, but I have announcements to make. Some important announcements. First of all, there's some problems with chat where not all moderators' messages are being seen, and not all super chats are showing up, but I've been assured that we are getting them all. And I've also been assured that the moderators are in place and will be moderating just like normal. I made a comment basically saying, hey, no, Apple Music did not do all this. I'm talking about YouTube Music. Apple Music is garbage. I'm just kidding. I don't have it. I don't pay any attention to it. But anyway, I put out a call saying, hey, we're going to be a little more lax on atheist callers tonight because we're going beyond just religious, claims or whatever else we want to talk about. What are you guys thinking about this upcoming election and everything else? And I know that we're rolling over something at 9, so we're doing that. We've got one call queued up about miracles, and I'm going to take that in just a second. Since I mentioned it, the artist of Who Would Jesus Bomb, his name's Jordan Smart. And I'm going to read the lyrics real quick because it's worth it for you to go listen to it. But as a poem, it stands well also. If Jesus Christ came back today like you threaten he will, which poor group of people do you think that he would kill? Who would Jesus choose to starve if you gave him the chance? And if there was a genocide, would he take a neutral stance? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Would he say it's complicated, there's sinners on all sides? Or would he say that some people, they just deserve to die? If Christ the Savior rose again, then on a sidewalk slept, would you extend a hand to him, or just watch where you stepped? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheist, the Muslim, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus hate the gay folks, or the queer folks, or the trans? Would he suggest they end their lives according to God's plans? Would Jesus tell the homeless man to get a fucking job, or turn his back on the poor? Would Jesus be a snob? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheist, the Muslim, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, just what would Jesus do? Would Jesus vote Republican, or would it be Democrat? Would he be chanting 4 more years, or wear a MAGA hat? Would Jesus run for president, or dictator, or worse? Would Jesus be the pastor of his own megachurch? I'll skip a chorus. Would Jesus build a border wall? Would Jesus drive a tank? Would Jesus own an arsenal? Would Jesus run a bank? Would Jesus feel safe in his skin if he came to your town? Would you still believe in Jesus if you found out he was brown? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Now, as always, it's imperfect. The lyric about the trans is really shitty in the way it's phrased, and yet the spirit is enough to say, hang on, you're the one that's saying this is about love. This person is writing about the Jesus that James Tallarico believes is real and using it to point out the hypocrisy of the people who profess that Jesus but advocate for the Westboro Jesus. It's a great song and imperfect. We can't wait for the perfect song. We can't wait for the perfect time. And if you're sitting around waiting on Jesus, you're letting everything pass you by and you're not doing anything to help anybody. That was written by Jordan Smart. If we get gaps between callers, I might read you guys some more protest song lyrics because damn it, I'm in that kind of mood.
You might make
like
me
maybe
go
Grandpa was a liberal. Which is a wild take because John Prine famously wrote a song called Grandpa Was a Carpenter, which I also like. We got more calls, and you can get your calls in. Toy is calling from the Philippines. He's a theist who wants to talk about miracles in hell. Hey, Toy, how are you? You're on with Brady and Matt. Are you there, Toy? It says you're calling from a web browser, and so you may need to tap your phone to wake your phone up and to wake your browser up so we can hear you. Hey, I hear you.
Hey, Toy?
Toy evidently hung up.
I wanted to hear about some miracles.
I do too. Maybe Toy will call back. Toy was on hold for a little while, and I think maybe in the process of waking it up, it might have just dropped. By the way, we have the lines open, and while we will always put theists to the top of the line, and if you are, was Toy a prank caller that? Nope. Okay. We're waiting to see. If you have thoughts about something Brady and I missed about, the true nature of Jesus or some religion or whatever else, let us know. Toy's back. Let's see if we can do this. Hey, Toy, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you. What's up?
I'm going to talk.
We lost you, Toy.
Let me try this again.
Oh, hello.
Are you there, Toy?
There you go.
You want to talk about? You want to talk about miracles?
Yes. So I got a friend who he shot himself. Then and then suddenly shot himself in the head, and he almost died, and he was in a hospital for maybe a month or so, and he was suffering from depression, and then a couple of guns, like God woke him up, and he told himself that if God wakes me up, then there's nobody can. So what view and does God put some?
I'm having a little difficulty following, but you have a friend who shot himself, almost died, suffered from depression, and then God woke him up, and he said, "If God wakes me up, nobody can." Let me see if I understand this. Are you suggesting that your friend shot himself in the head, was essentially comatose, whatever, non-responsive, and that God woke him up and only God could wake him up, and you're claiming that's a miracle? We're not hearing you, so you'll have to tap your phone to wake it back up.
Hello.
Yes, I hear you now.
You know, it if it is a miracle, then or it's not. It is or some kind of a supernatural event that happened to him. What do you
How
say?
would you tell?
Do you believe in those?
No. How would you tell if it's supernatural or not?
Well, it's that are what they call miracles. It's something supernatural has happened. So
I know that the definition of a miracle is that something supernatural has happened. What I'm saying is your friend shot himself and eventually woke up, recovered. What about that is supernatural?
because it is maybe the probability it's going to be alive is very slim. So it's
Is that what means something is supernatural if it's just unlikely?
Yeah.
yeah, it's something unlikely to be alive. So maybe he has a 1% chance to be alive.
No.
So
No, something is supernatural only when it's confirmed that it is supernatural in nature. Just because something's unlikely naturally doesn't mean that it's more likely supernaturally. Nobody's ever demonstrated that the supernatural is possible. So if something only has a 1% chance naturally, you can't say it's more likely to happen supernaturally because you can't demonstrate that there's a greater than 1% chance that it's supernatural.
So what do you think it is then? So not many people or they shot themselves to the head or committing suicide that is going to be alive.
Quite a few people have attempted suicide and survived, including people with firearms, including people with firearms to the head. I mean, I don't know what the odds are, but in order to claim that it's a supernatural miracle, you'd have to show that the odds are more likely that it's supernatural than not.
So what do you think? What is the answer for that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I have a questions about hell.
What do you think the answer is? What do you think the answer is?
For me, maybe it's just when the grades that those odds or 1% is going to be alive. It's for me maybe it's only a lucky guy who just wake. Hello.
We're here.
We're here.
Hello.
We're here.
He's being lucky. That's all.
Okay. Well, I think that's true,
And
whether it's a miracle or not. He's lucky.
Right.
But
yes. For me, it's being lucky. If it's not miracle, it's being lucky. So, because they said that all the doctors said that he is very unlikely to survive. So it's being others say there's miracle. So others say he's lucky.
okay. What was your? You also mentioned something about hell.
Yes. So I'm the connection to the guy. If he said if he died, he committed suicide. So suicide is against I mean, it's like murdering yourself. So you go directly to hell. You and that guy said that he accepted the Lord Jesus Christ is in a Lord and Savior. So he made it. So he is given a second chance to survive. Uh, and for myself, and I'm asking a lot of Christian denominations claim that they all the religion is the only religion or the only denomination that can go to heaven. So there are many. I'm quite confused because there's a lot. So I cannot uh, understand on how they claim that they are the right one. So I know that you don't
Okay.
believe in.
Hold on, Toy. Brady, what's the justification that different religions use for claiming their view of how you get to heaven is the right one?
Some religions.
The most common.
Toy, I'm asking Brady so that he can answer the question.
Yeah, several religions justify their salvation schema by saying, "Hey, God revealed it to them and them only, or their prophet only." Some religions say, "No, there are other ways to hell. Each religion has their own way, but they all lead to the same place." So every religion is going to have their own justification.
Yes, for what my others say, the pastors say that you believe in Jesus Christ and you will be saved, and you accept Jesus Christ in your heart, then you'll be saved. And you those when you do good, it is the result of your being saved. So it is evidently you go to heaven.
I'm kind of
Hello?
lost here.
Yeah. So, Toy, there are different religions that make different claims. And so far as I can tell, none of them have been able to prove that their claims are the correct ones. It'd be nice if somebody would call in. I wish there was a theist or a Christian out there who cared enough about Toy's soul and my soul and Brady's soul, which I don't even think we have, but it'd be nice if one of them cared enough about that to call in and say, here's what you must do to be saved, and here's how you can know this is the right answer. I mean, it's been ages that we've been asking and saying, hey, what, I mean, like even in the Bible, Jesus is asked, Master, what must I do to be saved? This is a common question in religions where there's something to be saved from or to, and nobody wants to call in. Like, this is why I'm going to let you go, Toy, but I appreciate the call. This is one of the reasons why we often do debates or have calls about does God exist?
Mm.
Because I'm going to tell a story I told before, but I'll keep it really brief. One of my all-time favorite debates was between Matt Slick and Jesse, whose name I always forget. I'm so sorry. I should look it up. I reference it too often. They're both Christians, and they're both having a debate about soteriology. Soteriology, by the way, is the study of what you must do for salvation. And they were basically pulling out Bible verses that supported their view. Bible verses interpreted the way they interpret them support their view. And then the other guy would do the same thing, but with different verses. And at no point were they saying, you've misunderstood this verse. Here's how you can know that that verse means this. Although, to be fair, I have seen ministers do that. There's plenty of times when they'll get into debate arguing, say, no, you've misunderstood what this means. You misunderstood what grace means in this context, or what neighbor means in this context. And those are weird little nitpicky theology discussions that you might just say, why on earth would anybody ever need to have those? Why can't God be clear enough that two people who believe and love God couldn't get it right and just agree on it? That's pretty weird. But that debate, they didn't do that. It was, we both got this book. I'm going to pick these verses and say they support me, and you're going to pick these other verses and say they support you. Go back and look. In all the time, not just the show on Wednesday nights, the Sunday shows, everything else. What we get are a bunch of frauds, a bunch of people, just trolling. It's very rare that we get sincere believers from any religion. But even within Christianity, even where, they're required under 1 Peter 3:15 to give an explanation for the faith that's within them, where they're given a great commission in 2 different gospels to go out and spread the good word, where the Bible itself talks about what one must do to be saved. They don't seem to have any way of saying, I think the path of salvation is this. I think it because X, whether it be the Bible or divine revelation or whatever, and then follow that up with, and the reason I think it's true, and you should think it's true, is this. I've been waiting. I think we might get one right now. I am forever optimistic, but let's try it.
Okay.
Monty is a theist calling from Wisconsin who says he thinks we should believe in God, and they'd like to explain why. So, hey, Monty, thanks for calling.
Hello, Matthew, and I believe the other person's name Brian.
Nope, Brady.
Brady, I'm sorry. I wasn't really tuned in. Sorry about that.
All good. All good.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe you should both believe in God, and everyone should. And I believe there's definitive proof of his existence, namely Jesus Christ. And I would say, like Jesus said that the world doesn't receive him because it doesn't see him or know him. So there is an element of faith to it, because if God just appeared to everyone, then it would be like, why wouldn't we just be made like robots or whatever? But
hold on, real quick.
Okay, yeah.
Monty, you said if God appeared to everyone, it would sort of like just they'd be robots, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If he just
did God appear to Adam and Eve?
I'm sorry. What?
Did God appear to Adam and Eve?
Yes.
And were they robots?
No, I was mainly being if everything went well in the world kind of a thing. Sorry.
No, but I'm saying everything was going well in the garden. Everything was going well in the garden, and God appeared to them, and they still disobeyed, so they weren't robots. So what precludes God from appearing to us and giving us the same shot that he gave Adam and Eve?
I believe he kind of does do that. It's more so, I mean, first off, our circumstances are different because then they fell. So now we're born into sin, not that we're sinners when we're babies, but then we start to sin.
Does that mean God can't come walk with me in the garden?
For a relationship like that to every single person, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about. You can
wait, are you saying, Monty, are you saying God can hear everybody's prayers, answer everybody's prayers, but can't walk with everybody?
No, you can choose. We have a free will, so we can choose to do evil.
I didn't ask anything about free will. I'm asking about what God can do. Are you saying God can't appear to everyone and walk with everyone?
No, I could do that, but he doesn't force himself on anyone.
That's not forcing. I'm literally, hey, God, you don't have to force yourself on you. Come down here and walk with me and Brady and Monty right now. You are invited. Why doesn't God do that? That's not forcing himself on me. Why does Paul get a Damascus Road experience and I don't? Why does God play favorites?
If you sincerely meant that, I believe he would do that for you. So,
well, that's a really convenient. That's a really convenient excuse, Monty. But can you give some sort of reason or logical argument? Because all that is I have a girlfriend who goes to another school. I would introduce you to her, but you wouldn't believe it. And because you don't actually want to meet her, I'm not going to introduce you to her.
Well, and it's God who searches people's hearts. But like, I mean, yes, if you really sincerely,
if God's the one that searches people's hearts, Monty, are you saying that nobody out here is sincerely seeking God and not getting God to appear?
Yeah, I would believe that to be true. Like,
what's your justification for that?
That are like that.
What is your justification for the conclusion? Hang on. What's your justification for the conclusion that every single that there are no sincere disbelievers, that all of us who disbelieve, who aren't having these experiences, are dishonest?
I don't think everyone's dishonest. I think there's even some unbelievers who know Jesus exists but choose not to follow
I'm sorry.
him. So
you don't think that's dishonest to know that Jesus exists and choose not to follow him?
Oh no, I mean, I in a way, not that. Yeah, no. Well, yeah, that would obviously be dishonest, but like, it's not like.
Well, you called in, Monty, to say there was demonstrable evidence that everyone should believe, and that evidence was Jesus Christ. I'm not aware that Jesus Christ exists or even existed, although I'm fine with the notion that maybe somebody named Jesus. How would you demonstrate to me this demonstrable evidence that you call Jesus Christ?
Like, the Bible is not like any other book in that it has prophecies written by men who followed God, and like, you know, like the book of Isaiah written 700 years before Jesus even existed, and Jewish people are looking for a Messiah. And
how does that show me Jesus?
Sorry.
How does that show me Jesus? What that shows me is that some people interpreted some passages to be prophetic and made a claim that someone fulfilled that prophecy. But I have no evidence of any of that. I just have a story.
And I mean, sure, you can look at it that way, but if you ask God, like, hey, is this all true? Like, you know, like, I can give one passage, Zechariah 12:10. I don't know when that was written, but the Old Testament was written at least 400 years before Jesus' birth, the last book, right? And that says, and that's the prophet speaking what God told them, and it says, they will look upon me whom they have pierced, and they will mourn for one as one mourns for an only son. And like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of other things. But you need faith to do that, because it says in the Bible
here's the problem, Monty. Monty, do you realize that I walked down the aisle at the age of 5 and accepted Jesus into my heart and was a fundamentalist Christian and was studying to be a minister, and that Brady was also a believer, that we used to believe this as well? And now you're telling us that when we actually explored this, even as believers, sincere believers, that we were somehow dishonest or insincere, and that your proof is that there's a passage in Zechariah 12:10 that you think points to another passage in the New Testament that you cannot demonstrate ever happened.
Well, I would say that it says that they're blinded by Satan, unbelievers. So yourself, and also most likely, you know, demons and Satan, and like, could be your own choices. It could be, but like, yeah, there's false conversions. Like Judas healed people for 3 years. Judas walked with Jesus for 3 years, and yet he betrayed him and hanged himself. So it's like, just because maybe I don't deny your testimony. Maybe you were sincere. Maybe you weren't sincere. I don't know that. But if you
seem to act like you know it. You seem to act like you know it, because you literally said, Monty, you do think you know, Monty, because you literally said that you believe that there are no sincere non-believers.
I said that I don't think I said it like that. I think I said that if you sincerely went to Jesus, then
Okay. Here's
maybe
what I
there's
need from you,
unbelievers
Monty.
looking for
I need
truth.
you, Monty. I need you to do what you said you'd do, which is to provide the evidence that warrants belief instead of making excuses for why you can't present the evidence that warrants belief. What's the evidence?
Okay, well, I can say personal experience for myself in that I was an atheist like you, and
Monty?
I
Monty?
would make fun
Monty.
of people. Yeah.
Monty, I'll bet you a paycheck you were not an atheist like me, but also because if you were an atheist like me, that would mean that you were a skeptic and you understood
Right.
epistemology, and you would understand that your personal experience is not demonstrable evidence for me. You would have studied David Hume and known that revelation is necessarily first person, and to everybody else it's hearsay. So what is your demonstrable evidence that you think should convince everybody?
But that's what I'm saying. He'll do the same for you. All right, what I'm saying is Jesus said that he will reveal himself to those. He himself says that he
How
will
do you know
reveal
Jesus
himself to
said
the one
that?
that
How do you know Jesus
loves and
said
keeps
that?
his commandments.
How do you know Jesus said that?
Because his disciples wrote it down, and Jesus said his words would never pass away.
How do you know Jesus said his words would never pass away?
Because it says that in the Bible and the.
Because it's in the
I agree with the
Bible.
testimony.
You are
I
100%
didn't
Monty for the Bible tells me so. Why should we
Yeah.
believe what the Bible says?
Yeah.
I didn't finish that, and the Holy Spirit.
I'm sorry. You did finish
it shows
that.
me in my heart.
I'm asking
for
the
it to be
question,
true.
why should we believe what the Bible says? You said that you had demonstrable evidence, and your evidence is this is what the Bible says. Well, that is the claim. What is the evidence that supports it?
Like any other book where it has hundreds of prophecies that have come true, and you can just reject that and just. But like, there's without a shadow of a doubt, the Bible has hundreds of prophecies.
Monty?
And, like, what
Monty,
makes
can
me
I
not
ask you a
believe
question?
that?
Monty,
Yes.
can I ask you a question? You dove into, what was it, Zechariah? Was it Zechariah 12?
Zechariah
Did you dove in?
12:10.
Do you think it's fair to go into a passage, an entire passage? You're in the 12th chapter of the book and the 10th verse of the 12th chapter. Do you think it's fair to go into the 12th chapter and the 10th verse of a book and pull out chapter 12, verse 10 and say this applies to Jesus and not pay any attention to what's going on in at least verses 1 through 9 of that chapter? Have you ever looked at verses 1 through 9 of that chapter to see if that came to pass as well? Or do you just concern yourself with verse 10?
No, the Bible's written like Jewish people, like it was one whole entire scroll. So I don't know how they, they're separated.
Point granted, but you came with one verse, verse 10, because it sounds like you're Jesus. They will look upon him whom they have pierced. Have you looked at the verses that come before that to see if they also apply to your Jesus?
He says, and I will pour my spirit out upon them. It's literally God speaking through the prophet about himself and his forthcoming. And
it's so strange. It's so strange, Monty, that he asked you if you'd read other verses, and all you did was start reading verse 10 again. Now, what's extra weird is, we can get into this separately. I don't know that verses 1 through 9 have any bearing or fail to have any bearing, and I like the point that Brady's making. But even if verse 10 said, in the future, I will send down my only begotten son, and he will be killed and pierced through the side. And then a later book comes along and says, here was this person who was killed and pierced through the side, and we believe this is that person incarnation that was spoken of in Zechariah. Would that make it true?
No.
Correct. And since what you're presenting is weaker than the strong case that I presented, it would be irrational to become convinced that this is true on weaker evidence than the one you just rejected.
But that's...
Please, Monty, before you respond, Monty, think about what Matt just said. You just admitted that somebody in the future saying this current event looks familiar, looks like that. It could be that past event that somebody wrote about. Doesn't have to be, but it could be. You just admitted that would not be good enough evidence. Matt said you're presenting us even weaker evidence than that saying we should trust it. What is your response to that?
And my response to that is that the Bible isn't the only thing. Like, God is a living God, and like the Bible isn't the only thing. The Bible has contradictions and errors. It's not.
How do you know
it's
that
not
God
perfect
is a
like
living
is.
God? How do you know that God is a living God?
Because, well, you can't, because I have a personal relationship with him, and he's shown me the future. And like you said,
now it's a personal relationship thing, which I already addressed with the David Hume thing. You said that you had demonstrable evidence, and now you're saying it's all personal. It's based on faith. It's, do you believe the Bible? It's, do you believe this prophecy? Where's the demonstrable evidence?
I said that there was an element of faith. That was literally one of the first things I said, that there's an element of faith, because...
Well, it wasn't one of the first things you said, but it was earlier in the conversation for sure. I don't know why you're avoiding what you keep avoiding my question. Where is the do you know what is demonstrable evidence, Monty? If I said Brady definitely killed that guy in that hotel room and I have demonstrable evidence, what would count for that?
Okay. Of a recording of it.
Have you got that for God or Jesus?
He lived this earth. His disciples, direct eyewitnesses recorded what happened.
No, you don't. You have no eyewitness reportings. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John are not eyewitness reports at all.
Okay, you can believe that, but...
No. It's not a matter of what I believe. This is not even controversial. This is from Christian New Testament scholars as well. But let's assume for a second, I'll just go ahead and pretend along with you that the authors of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were in fact all eyewitnesses. Does that mean that what we have recorded from them is true?
I mean, all right, let me think about that. If they were all eyewitnesses, does that mean what they wrote down was true? I mean, they cooperate with each other. So, like, isn't that a thing in a court of law? Like, if multiple people...
Does it mean that their claims are true?
Not necessarily, but God is
correct.
True. And I guess...
And so what else have you got? And right now, you have a claim that these people saw this, which is not true. But you're making that claim. What evidence do you have? What? No. Okay. You're crashing out, Monty. Please take a breath. I don't need you to tell me that I can not believe it. I'm aware that I cannot believe it. I used to believe it, and now I don't, because I gained a better understanding of the nature of evidence and what should be required. And so you can say that the authors of the Gospels were eyewitnesses. That is now your claim. What is the evidence that they were in fact eyewitnesses and that we have an accurate record of what they actually witnessed?
Okay. They most likely weren't lying, because all of Jesus's disciples were killed for their faith. So most people,
Monty,
jihadis,
I did not say, I'm sorry, Monty, listen to me.
Yes.
You went to, it's most likely they're not lying. I didn't mention lying at all, did I?
That their witness is true. You were asking me if their witness is
true.
No,
Monty, this is the thing when you don't listen carefully. I apologize. I don't apologize too much. I'll apologize a little bit. I've done this for a long time, and I'm very careful about what I say. I screw up from time to time. I'm sure I do. I'm sure I screwed up today. What I asked was, the claim is that these people were eyewitnesses and that we have an accurate record of what they actually saw. It's possible that we do not have an accurate record of what they saw and they're not lying, right?
I just don't think that's true, because they...
No, the question is it possible?
Is it possible that they wrote down something wrong, but it's true? I don't exactly understand.
Monty, you keep going with they wrote down. We don't even know. We have no originals. You have no way of knowing what they wrote down. You only know what we have. Translations of copies of fragments that are probably close to what they wrote down in many regards. but there are also errors and mistakes in there. How do you go about telling which part of the recorded record is in fact accurate to the author, and then show that the parts that are accurate to the author are also accurate to reality? Both of those steps have to occur.
You could pray to God for understanding if what these
Okay.
people are saying is it true
Okay.
or if it's a lie.
Thanks for playing, Monty. But do you think that Brady and I haven't prayed to God many times? Do you think that I wasn't on my knees begging God to give me? Do you know how I became an atheist?
How?
I was trying to become a Christian minister because I thought that's what God wanted, and so did the people from my church. The people from my church and my parents believed that God wanted me to be a minister, and I rejected that, and I went off and did my own thing for a while, and I thought that God was punishing me. And so while I was still a sincere believer, I was never hurt by anybody in the church, I wasn't wounded by anybody in the church, I didn't have a bad experience, I just felt that God wanted me to do this, and I hit my knees and I prayed, and I spent over a year and a half in sincere study and studied the Bible and had to learn bits and pieces of Hebrew and Greek and Aramaic and studied history stuff. I'm not fluent in any of them. I'm not an expert in any of it. And yet I know all of it better than the overwhelming majority of people who have ever sat in a church pew in any Christian church on the planet. And I'm still a dumbass that misunderstands and gets a bunch of it wrong. There are guests on my show frequently who know all of this better than I ever will, ever did, or ever want to. But I was sincere, and I begged God. And then I went to the minister friends of mine, including my uncle, who was a medical missionary and the most spiritually wise person that I knew, and several pastors and several preachers and several apologists, and went to them. And then I realized, let God be true and every man a liar, because these apologists weren't doing any better than you are, Monty. It was pray about it, have some faith, trust the gospel, trust the book, trust this, because none of them had any understanding of the nature of evidence and what warrants belief. And so I prayed to God, please, God, help me. If this is what you want me to do, I surrender. I don't have any job. I have nothing on my plate. I have nothing to do. I'm sitting here for a year and a half in intense prayer and study. Now, maybe I didn't do it right. Maybe God doesn't like me. Maybe I'm not one of the chosen one. But if you call into a show, Monty, and you say that you have demonstrable evidence that anyone should accept, you had better be prepared to deal with someone who has been through far more and knows far more about every one of the subjects, because they're going to ask you the difficult questions. And if you can only come back with, well, it's in the Bible, or well, you should pray, or I think you're deceived by demons, or I think you're dishonest, or I think that if you actually were sincere when you asked God, he'd reveal himself to you, you're going to look like you are a goober that doesn't understand any of this, because you're pretending to read minds. And as someone who also pretends to read minds, I'm a stage magician, I'm much better at it than you are, at pretending to read minds. So maybe what you should do, Monty, since you're the one that seems to have a relationship with God, why don't you go pray to God and ask God what you should say when you call in next time? Because if God answers you and won't answer me, God should be able to tell you exactly what to say to Brady and me, right?
Yeah, but some people are just, they choose their, like, Solomon prayed to God and he followed God.
And some people
then,
overdose on copium every time that they refuse to learn a lesson. They refuse to open their mind. They just engage in the copium. You go ahead and rationalize it however you want. But what you did today, Monty, is you failed your Christian witness. And then when offered the one obvious shot, you started making more excuses. Oh, I would pray to God to ask him how to talk to you, but some people are just beyond it, and maybe you're beyond it. Cool. That's a whole heap and helping a copium, Monty. Enjoy it.
I don't think God hates you, or I think God
I don't
wants you to
either.
repent.
I don't either. I don't think God exists. But you can try and rationalize this every way you want, but you don't even know what evidence is, and you are unwilling to do the one thing that you said you could do, which is ask God what you need to say to me.
I never said I wouldn't do that.
Okay, Will you do it?
Yeah.
When?
Yeah. Conversation.
When?
Before we started this conversation,
I'm sorry.
was doing
You
that.
keep cutting out. When are you going to do it?
I said before we started this conversation, I did that. And
Why
I
don't
just
you
said
do it
that I
right
hope-
now? Why don't you do it right now? You're supposed to pray without ceasing. God is supposed to be listening all the time. Why don't you right here live on the air in front of all the viewers, pray for God to reveal to you what he wants you to say to us? We'll wait.
Father, I just pray that whatever I have said, it could be edifying to someone, whether Matthew or Brady or any of the listeners, and that they would repent and turn to you, Lord Jesus. And I know that you search our hearts and you desire all of us to come and repent, but you're not willing that any should perish. And you left the 99 for the one, but you also give us the choice to go as we please. So I would just hope that everything that I could say something that you would work through me, and that by your spirit you could draw them to yourself.
Amen.
Amen.
Did he answer you?
Maybe not with a physical word, no. But
You want to give
I'm
it a minute?
called
You think he needs some time?
I don't know. I guess I've heard this from another believer. I'm not really called. I'm called to make disciples of Jesus and not like argue with unbelievers. I'm just here to say the truth and like
No, but I mean, you just
the
prayed that
seed is
at the end of what you were saying, you got to what Matt was asking you to ask God about, which is that he would give you the words to say to us. So I'm saying maybe let's give it a couple seconds. Maybe he'll drop it in your spirit, and then you will know what to say to us that would convince either Matt or me or.
Because what was really wild is right after you did that really nice preachy prayer and then said you maybe didn't get a word, you immediately went back to the copium. And I could tell you, if God's real and God wants an audience to understand that he's real and God cares at all about anybody listening to this show, that was the exact wrong thing to say. To dig back into excuses about how you're not supposed to be doing this, you're not necessarily called to make disciples. All you did was make excuses. Is your God a God of excuses?
no.
Well, maybe we'll let you go. You can go off into your prayer closet and ask him privately, and maybe you'll get a different answer and you won't have to, add a little excuse at the end. It's fine. By the way, don't take any of this personally, Monty. I greatly appreciate you calling. I appreciate you praying. I'm not going to do the I've been there, but I have been there, and I can appreciate all of this. You are doing the exact same thing that I did when I was flailing about trying to make excuses for why God wasn't answering, why God wasn't helping, why God allows worms to crawl through the eyes of babies who never did anything wrong, why cancer exists, why he tries to give us free will but doesn't give us free will, why he doesn't provide any answers or explanations, why there's 1,000 denominations, or to steal something that I said I would steal from Brady, who he stole from somebody else. When a human man ejaculates, there are millions of sperm that are released, but only one's going to make it to the egg. And God knows exactly which one that is. And God created this whole system. So why would God create a system that requires millions of sperm when he already knows which one's going to get there? Why not just create the one sperm? Ask him that.
I don't know.
If he can answer that.
Go ahead, Monty.
It works in ways I don't understand.
Yeah, he works in ways that nobody understands. And
Yeah.
you know what? That's identical to not working at all.
He works in ways that are very close to what we would call chance. And I'm trying to figure out, how would I know that it's your God and not just chance? Like the caller who called a little while ago talking about his friend who shot himself in the head and survived. How do we know it's God and not chance? How could you demonstrate that?
Well, Monty, I'm going to let you go because I swear I'm never here just to beat up on you, but you called in to say you had demonstrable evidence, so I got to do my job. I still call us back anytime, especially if you get an answer. But I've got like 6 other theists here who want to try and prove God, and maybe while you were praying, maybe one of them got the answer.
Tag team.
Cool. Take care, man.
Spiritual tag team, huh?
I hope so. This is the most theist we've had on hold in, I don't know, ages. So I'm excited. Michael's calling from California. Pronouns are he, him. Wants to present his arguments for God. Hey, Michael, can we just start with one? Because there's a bunch of people on hold, and I don't know how long it's going to take to do multiples.
Sure, Matt. I've had the pleasure of speaking before. So I'll let you pick your favorite argument for God, and then we can start by defining terms of what the definition of God is and what evidence is, and then we'll see if any of these arguments hold any weight. And
pick a card, any card, huh?
There, but I'll let you pick. Hello?
What? Let me pick from what? What are my I don't know
arguments?
what your options are.
I'm sorry, you probably didn't hear me. I said pick your favorite, your strongest argument for God. You probably think they all fail fallaciously at some level. First of all, I wanted to say,
Michael,
I wanted to tell you, thank you for your service, Matt.
Michael,
I've never heard anyone.
Michael,
yeah, sure.
Michael,
you don't have to kick
you're done talking. You're done talking. I don't need you to tell me to go. Okay, I don't need you to tell me to go ahead. I'm just going to drop you. You're done talking. You don't know how to do this.
Have a good day, Matt.
This
Goodbye.
is not. Goodbye. This is not. Hi, I'd like to defend God. Which argument is your favorite for me to defend? I mean, that's literally. Thank you, Michael, for being the dumbest caller of the day and not wasting time for the other theist who might have an argument they'd like to present. But that is absolute. Have you ever had anybody do that, Brady?
No, I'm about to start taking calls next month, and I'm watching you guys try to figure out how y'all deal with some of this nonsense. But
pick your call. Pick your argument. Okay, I'd like you to defend the argument from poop comes out your butt. This will be fun. Brady, I'd like you to meet Brady. Brady's calling from Utah. Pronzahim is a theist who wants to continue advocacy for Monty's argument on personal experience and that knowledge is experiential. Hey, Brady.
Another Brady?
Is your experience something I can experience?
My experience, no.
Hey, so if you had if I told you that I just saw a leprechaun in my backyard, would that be, while that might be compelling evidence for me, it wouldn't be compelling evidence for you, right?
True. Yeah.
Okay. Does that demolish your entire argument before you get to present it, or is yours different?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'll have to just call back. Thanks anyway.
Oh, okay. Brady, sincerely, I appreciate that. And I'm sorry that I short-circuited it. I feel bad because, I mean, I think this will make the shortest good clip, but yeah, personal experience is a problem because it happened to you. And I have no way of determining if your conclusion on, I have no way of conclusioning if you're even rational about it. Don't leave just yet. I figured this is a good point worth making. I had a friend. No, sorry, not a friend. I had a relative. I tried to soft pedal it for them. Nobody will know who it is. Who told me the story about how shortly after their grandmother passed away, they woke up in the middle of the night and they thought that their grandmother was sitting on their bed. And they went back to sleep. And when they woke up in the morning, it looked like there was a butt print where somebody had been sitting. Now, I'm willing to believe that they might have had a dream or they had some experience. Who knows what it was? And then they reached a conclusion. But I have no way of determining if their conclusion that their grandmother was actually sitting there is the right conclusion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is the problem with personal experience. You might have had, like, God could have showed up to you personally and said, "Hi, I'm God," and given you some internal justification to believe that it's true. And that wouldn't do any of the rest of us any good. And the only reason I bring this up is if that kind of thing happens, it'd be really cool if people who understood that would ask God why he isn't doing this for everybody. Why is he giving you something special? This goes back to what Brady and I were talking about earlier, you know, with Adam and Eve and Paul's Damascus Road experience. I mean, all you would be doing is saying, you're special because God's playing favorites and giving you experiences that we don't get and can't verify. And I don't think, I mean, I know Brady, both Bradys probably don't think that's the best way to teach somebody that you're real, right?
Could I respond to that?
Absolutely. I'd love it.
I don't want to advocate for you to trust my personal experience.
Mhm.
You know, because I think it just kind of answers for itself. That's why we call it a personal experience. You know.
Yeah.
So, and just and that supports your argument. So.
Let me, if I can, I don't know what the nature of your experience is that convinced you to believe in the God that you believe in. I had an experience. I had a dream of Jesus back when I was younger. I know my picture's frozen. It'll unfreeze in a minute. But I had an experience of Jesus. It was a dream, and it was as real as anything that I had the experience in my mind. I had the sensations in my body of I was in the presence of someone. And it meant the world to me at that time. No one can tell me that I didn't have that experience, just like we cannot tell you that you didn't have the experience that you had. But what I've had to do since is I've had to reorient and reinterpret what could that have been. And so none of what Matt just said, none of what I would say would ever be to try to take your experience away from you. But I do think there's some room to challenge, hey, that thing that I really did experience, is it what I think it was? And then here's the trippy part. You could even do this with the originators of the resurrection story, because it's very likely that maybe they had experiences too. Maybe they were grief-stricken. Maybe someone really thought that they saw a resurrected Jesus, and no one could tell them that they didn't. But whether they were interpreting that experience correctly or not, that's something that we could all opine on.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, I love that perspective.
Cool. Thanks so much for
Um,
calling, Brady. And if you get more arguments or more things to discuss, by all means, give us a call back. But we went from having no calls to having a whole bunch of theistic callers. And since we kind of handled that real quick, call us back another time, and I'm going to move on to somebody else.
Yeah, sure thing. Of course. Bye-bye.
Take care, man. By the way, there's a lot going on tonight. We've got 3 more theist callers on right now, and we will definitely get to all of them. We've got about an hour and 8 minutes left, and part of that is going to be reading super chats, and super chats are going to work slightly different today in that I won't have access to them, but you guys won't notice because Arden will be queuing them up and sending them on in. And Arden, I'm correct. It's all the super chats over $10.
Yeah, I was even thinking maybe since it's a new system, there's multiple locations. We're being a little confused and chat's not working. We could lower the threshold to 5 for tonight's show and read all super chats over 5. So, because there was a few that got sent in, people didn't see the notifications. So
Let's do that. And do we need to end right at 9, or do I just make sure I need to go at least till 9?
we don't want to go too much over 9. If we go like
Okay.
5 minutes over, I don't think that's a huge problem, but we don't want to go 10 minutes over.
Then I'm going to need you to kind of guess based on how many super chats there are, when we should roll over super chats, because I can't see them. But we got theist callers here. And by the way, before we get to the next theist caller, just as a reminder, this is one of many shows on the Line Network. This is just my Wednesday night show. It's quite often about politics, but tonight it's a little bit more about religion. If you missed the political stuff, you can go back to the beginning and watch it. It'll be cut out as a clip later as well. Tomorrow is the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And that is your opportunity in the middle of the afternoon, like 2 Central, to engage with actual trans folks who will not only share their lived experiences, but answer your questions. Are you a transphobe? Are you a bigot? Are you proud of it? Are you afraid of being, you're afraid you did it wrong and somebody called you out on it? All of those questions are great to get in there. If you're confused about, kind of some of the basics, if you don't know what pronouns are, maybe before you call, you could watch, like a Schoolhouse Rock on pronouns. I recommend the Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla. He had a friend who followed him home, and now it is his, and they're so happy. Anyway, if you have broader questions about pronouns, especially like neopronouns and things like that, by all means, it's a great opportunity to call in and talk to people. That's Thursday at 2:00. Then over the weekend, we have the Sunday show in the afternoon and the Sunday show after dark. After that, on Mondays is Skeptalk, and on Tuesdays is Chewed Gum, and then Wednesday I'll be back here with another episode of The Hang Up. Did we have any other announcements that you needed to get to, Arden, before I get to the next call?
Nope, that's it.
Awesome possum. Here we go. We have calling from North Carolina, Ash. Pronouns they, them, which I will try not to screw up, and I appreciate the patience. Ash says that their mom showed them a different way. If you don't know for sure there's no God, you need to protect your salvation. Hey, Ash, how you doing?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can.
All right. So because I was raised Catholic, I know I am not as well read on the Bible as both of you. But my mom is an evangelical. I was raised Catholic, and my dad is Catholic. So we've always had like religion in our household. But then, and when I grew up, I just didn't see enough evidence for it, and so I became an atheist. But now, I trust that my parents want what's best for me, and they have my best interests at heart. So I went back to the church, and now I'm like struggling with kind of like, I guess, fear of hell and fear of what's going to happen, because I don't know if I've already sinned. I don't really know. It's like, anyway, sorry, I'm rambling.
No, you're fine. Brady?
Yeah. I'm curious. You said you were an atheist. You went back to the church because these people love you. You figure they had your best interest. Did you ever get back to the point of embracing or accepting the God concept, or is it just the religious dogma of hell and heaven that's got you tripping? Like, where are you with the God concept?
I know, well, it's going to sound silly, but it's more just a feeling. It's really, when I hear you guys talk about just vibes all the time, and it kind of is, but it's also like, it makes sense to me because of like how my congregation kind of explained it, and how my pastor explained it, and anytime I have like doubts, I'll bring up like a verse or something that we covered, and like I don't understand what this means, and they let me know, and so like it all kind of falls into place.
So have you made like a profession of faith? Have you kind of given yourself over to it, or are you still just feeling your way through it, and it looks like it's working, like it's all coming true?
I guess it's kind of like a fake it till you make it kind of thing. where I'm like, I don't really fully understand, but I want to, and I'm completely open, and like I want to have the same experiences that my parents have had, that that my friends in church have had, and they like it's I haven't had like that like really powerful, like, I guess, I don't know what you call it, a come to Jesus moment kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I was really
I don't
asking
know.
about. Yeah. I will just simply say this: having had the come to Jesus moment, having been in the church for a good 10 years before it clicked for me. And it clicked for me when I was reading the Bible on my own one day, and I just read something that I had never considered before. And I said to myself, ooh, the God that I'm reading about in this verse, if this is the being that made all of this, I probably should be worshiping. And I gave myself over to it, and I became a Bible reader, a Bible lover. I became an evangelist. I became all this. But one of the things that I wish I would have had early on was a good understanding of psychology, of sociology, of physiology, so that when I feel things inside of me, the butterflies in my stomach, or the satisfying feeling of, oh, I connected the dots between, I thought this verse contradicted with this verse, but now I figured out a way to make sense. And that was very satisfying. But because I didn't understand just how human beings work, what I did was I interpreted all of that in the language that the church had provided me. They gave me the vocabulary. That's the Holy Spirit. That's conviction. That's regeneration. They gave me the language for real things that were happening inside of me. But I interpreted them according to the vocabulary that was provided for me. And I would suggest to you, understanding how how our minds work, how sociology works. I'm around a group of people and they're all saying that. I'll tell a real quick story that blew me away, and I'll pass it to Matt. I was listening to a podcast one time about a guy who was a police officer in Detroit. He went through the academy, and he says, this is back in the 70s, 1970s. He said, I told myself I was going to be a different kind of cop. I wasn't going to racially profile people. I wasn't going to use the N word. I wasn't going to, this is a white guy. I'm not going to use the N word. I'm not going to, be framing people. He says, but culture is so strong that I was on the job for less than a day. And by the half of my shift was over, and I was already calling black people the N-word because all the other cops around me were doing it. And I told myself I would never do it. And I'm just saying that to say, we are the kind of creatures that we're social beings. And if I see everybody else going into that building and raising their hands and having a good time and calling it God, and did you feel it? I felt it. Did you? If all that's going on, I'm going to be much more prone to accept that and want that and give myself to it. And what are we calling it? We're calling it the Holy what? The Holy Spirit. I'm speaking in tongues, but not. If you don't understand how we work, you will give yourself over to the explanations that other people give you. And I would just say, I think you should have the skeptical lenses on I'm not saying to be a cynic, but be skeptical. And if they're able to get past your skepticism, as Matt said a minute ago to the other caller, the caller said, I was an atheist like you. Matt said, you probably weren't skeptical. If you were skeptical, you would still be an atheist like me. And so I would just offer that skepticism to you and that learning what human beings are and how we work.
Something you said.
So I think
Go ahead, Ash.
I was kind of learned, or I mean, I was taught, sorry. I was taught backwards, kind of like, it just seems like the science is trying to explain what we have already known for thousands of years. Like it just seems like that, that when you are experiencing the spirit of God, that they're trying, like scientists are trying to like, explain it away with, physiology and or anatomy, and they don't have the same like basis, I guess.
Last thing I'll say, I'm going to pass it to Matt. I hear you. Last thing I want to say, but then I'll pass it to Matt. If that's the case, if this is just science trying to put new labels on what the spiritual explanation has already told you, one of the things you'd have to explain is why is it that people in other religions who don't know your Holy Spirit, don't know your Jesus, don't believe your Bible, they have the same physiological experiences. They have the same psychological and sociological experiences. You'd have to explain if it's really something that's true in your religious worldview. Why do you find, like, does sociology and psychology, does it explain it better than people in various religions worldwide having the same experiences but attributing them to different gods?
Huh. Well,
Seems
but
strange.
isn't that just the same thing? That I don't. It just seems like at the core of everything, all of these things that we're trying to explain and we don't have like answers for, at the core of everything is God, and that's why it's so confusing, and that's why it's so like
I would say that it's a
we're not
core.
meant to know.
Okay, well, that seems to be really irritating. At the core of everything, the one commonality is the human mind. There's no demonstration that there is a God. There is good reason to believe there are human minds having experiences, trying to understand the world and understanding it in different ways. Sometimes, as Brady was pointing out, with whatever language somebody else gave them. But the various holy books made all kinds of claims about scientific physical facts about the universe, and they got them wrong. And so then people rely on, oh, well, yes, but we have this experience and we go and pray and we feel this. And I think God is telling me this. And yes, and somebody else thinks that God is telling them that they're right. And and they've been killing each other. Here's the thing. One of the things you said early on was you're worried about the possibility of hell. Have you already done, a immortal sin? What kind of God would hold you to a mortal sin despite your sincere attempt to communicate with them and reunite with them, and would not communicate with you clearly, yes, you've committed a mortal sin, or no, you're fine? Why would a God leave you anguishing on whether you've done the right thing or not? The confusion you talk about, the confusion in the thousands upon thousands of religions, and by the way, over 1,000 denominations just of Christianity, and that's before we get to Judaism and Hinduism and Scientology and, whatever, Jains and everything else. And then there's all the religions that don't have names, that don't have labels, that don't have holy books, that are just animism and spiritism and all of this. And you have convinced yourself that science is trying to explain all of these away, when science is the single most honest, consistently reliable attempt to explain, not explain away. And all of these religions are saying, I felt something. What is it? And they're all coming up with different answers, but they're kind of similar. And they, instead of asking themselves, why, as Brady was pointing out, why are we coming up with similar explanations? Is it because there's one God that just won't fucking answer any of us? Or is it because we all have similar brains trying to solve similar problems with similar fears? And so we tell each other similar stories, but we don't get them exactly right. If you have wiped out every holy book, every religious text, and divided people up onto islands where they didn't interact with anybody, and said, okay, discover the world. Science, true scientific findings would be rediscovered. I see no reason to think any particular religion would.
Well, that's, a theory. We wouldn't be able to know, but it does seem like everyone is, or every religion has like a core God in it, or most religions have a core God in it. And
okay, so you went from every religion to most religions. What about the ones that don't? And what about the ones that aren't religions? I don't have a God. Name an experience you have that I can't have.
You would experience it too, though.
Yes. And I don't have a religion and I don't have a God belief. But what is it? What
Right.
an
You don't need
experience that
one.
this isn't about need. This is about what's true. Something's either true or
Right.
it's not, right?
Right.
Okay. So if you have an
Um,
experience and I have the same experience or a similar experience, and you think yours comes from a God, and I don't think mine comes from a God, only one of us can be right.
um, well, okay. So I guess I'm not sure I completely understand, but I guess so. The way my dad explained it is like science is completely written by people, and the Bible is God breathed. The Word of God
Okay.
is
Ash,
God
where,
breathed, and so
Ash, the Bible is completely written by humans too. Can you prove that it's not?
well, it was written by humans, but God wrote it through humans.
How do you prove
It
that?
wasn't
How
like
how
science
do you
doesn't
prove
have
how
the
do you
base.
prove how do you prove that God in any way had anything to do with what the Bible says? And why are you cherry picking the Bible and not the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran? Which holy book was written by a God, and how can you tell?
Uh, I I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice to try to find out? Because if you have an experience and I have an experience, and you think that that experience is caused by God, and I don't think that experience is caused by God, only one of us can be right. And what science is trying to do is find out with as little bias as possible, which one of us, if either, is actually correct. And what you're doing is waving away all of science as if it's trying to steal away your lucky charms. And science is saying, are they actually lucky? And so far, the answer is no.
I think a big problem for me is that I'm not really understanding like either science or the Bible. I think I am just trusting that because I don't believe that my parents would lie to me.
Your parents may not be
I don't think that
lying, but that doesn't mean that they're right. Your parents are saying what they were taught and what they believe, but that doesn't mean they're right. Have your parents ever been wrong about anything?
Yeah, but not something this big though. This is like
How do you
this
know?
is
How do you know your
literally
parent?
the
How do you know
most
your parents
important.
have never? How do you know your parents have never been wrong about something this big? What evidence do your parents have that the scripture is God breathed?
That it's a tradition. It's been passed down, you know,
Can traditions
thousands
be
of
wrong?
years.
Can things that are passed down be wrong?
Yes, but not
Yeah.
when the core
No,
message makes sense.
no,
Like
that's
it
not
when
true.
not when we
That's
can
not true,
see.
Ash. That's literally not true. Tradition can be wrong. Things passed down can be wrong, even when they make sense. Do you know why they get passed down? They get passed down because to somebody they make sense. But something might make sense given a limited understanding in a limited context and still not be true. When people said that lightning bolt was Zeus throwing the lightning bolts down, that made sense. And it got passed down. And then science showed what lightning actually is. Religions are our attempts to fill the gaps in our ignorance. So, of course, we make stories that make sense because it would be silly for us to believe that the explanation for lightning is Fergalbergal Minergalbergal. That doesn't make sense. And that's not going to get passed down. Your parents don't have any better reason to believe any of this than anybody else, which is why you don't have a better reason. Because if your parents had a good reason, they wouldn't give you just so stories. Oh, this is it because that's just the way it is, because this is tradition, because this was passed down, because We couldn't be wrong about this coming from God. Yes, you can. And you think everybody else was wrong about their religions coming from a God. How did your parents get it right, but every Hindu got it wrong? Every Muslim got it wrong.
I mean, I guess
You got some lucky parents. You were
it's
born
just different
lucky.
stories, but it's very possible it could just be the same God that people are misinterpreting.
It is
But, I
when
mean-
these other people are misinterpreting it. How did you determine that your parents are the ones that interpreted it right?
Okay, you're gonna say
These
it's
are
like
good questions, aren't they, Ash?
because how it is, or it's not okay. I guess it is kind of like a look at the trees kind of thing, but it's not. It's not like that. It's readily, I mean, because we can see that there are miracles every day, and if we can,
Well, really, point
I
me
don't
to
know.
one miracle. Point me to one miracle and show me how you know it's supernatural in origin and that it came from God. Just one.
That it's supernatural, and I mean, like
Name a miracle.
okay. I was listening to the caller that his friend had passed away, or and I don't think that was just like a happenstance kind of thing.
I'm not asking you for your opinion on a conclusion. You said miracles happen every day, and I said name a miracle. Name one.
Birth.
Birth is not a miracle.
and
Literally every human being that has ever existed was born. Birth is not a miracle.
right. But the fact that they were born and not someone else, or
nobody else could have been born. That's dictated by genetics. That's not a miracle either. That's science and chemistry. Name a miracle.
Well, I would say that is. It's not. I mean, I get you can explain it with science, but I wouldn't say that that's a purely scientific thing. I mean, because it's.
What is it? What makes something a miracle? If something happens naturally, literally hundreds of thousands of times per day, how could you consider it a miracle?
It doesn't matter the frequency. It's
really, it doesn't matter the frequency. A miracle is literally a suspension of natural law that's in frequency makes it extraordinary. And you're saying miracles happen every day. You have a really loose definition of a miracle. Is it a miracle that we took your call today?
No.
No. And yet that's that happened orders of magnitude less than the number of people who were born while we've been talking to you in the last 20 minutes. What is your criteria for what is a miracle?
I guess I don't have like a clear definition of what a miracle is. It's more like the fact that there's so many things that have to line up to make something happen that it just it is.
Isn't that true? Isn't that true for everything? Didn't every one of my ancestors have to meet at exactly the right time throughout the entirety of history in order for them to fuck at exactly the right time to produce each one of the descendants leading right up to me? And didn't that had to happen for everybody else in the planet in order for the molecules of oxygen to be arranged in the correct order so that when I breathed in at the beginning of this sentence and then began to speak, that the number of permutations of what could have or might have imaginarily happened is beyond calculation. It is greater than the number of atoms in the entire universe. You could claim any event as extraordinary once you do that. In that case, name an ordinary event. Name something that's not a miracle.
I guess you are right about the okay, yeah, you're right. The frequency, okay.
Hey, Ash, I, I, there's a lot to take in. Think about what we said so far. Call us back another time. Think about trying to figure out what you think about miracles, how you're going to go about justifying your beliefs. Because if we recognize that, tradition and parents and all this other stuff, we have to have a better standard than that for determining what's true. Because, in many cases, once upon a time, you only knew who your daddy was because your mama told you. And now we have DNA testing that can confirm it. Science is exploring the world and coming up with explanations to fill in holes where we've operated loosely for most of human history because we didn't have the tools. And what we're finding is that a lot of the times when we operated loosely because we lacked the tools, we made up stories to keep us from feeling uncomfortable, to keep from feeling the discomfort and the concern that you feel. You're going to make up a story at some point that you are not destined for hell, or that you have sufficiently made amends with some God that won't even answer a single fucking question from you. And you'll feel better about it. When what you might ought to do is, instead of making up a story that's comforting, say, hey, if God won't answer this directly, why do I want to spend eternity with him? Do I even know he's there? How could I be possibly doing something wrong by saying, hey, God, it's me, Ash, are you there? And waiting and getting nothing back and giving up because I only have one life that I know I'm going to live. And I'd like to not waste it sitting here every day worrying about whether or not God's ever going to fucking answer.
Yeah. I need to think more on it, and I need to, I want to talk to my parents more about it as well.
Watch this back, Ash. I think there's a lot that was said that if you just spend some time thinking about the things that were said, just think about the logic behind what Matt was saying, some of the things that I was saying. And before you talk to anyone, just think, what do you think about this? And then see where you go after that.
I don't even know what I think about it. That was kind of the whole problem to
Well,
begin
yes.
with, was that I didn't have enough information, and so
Right.
I decided I was agnostic. Like, I don't know, and I didn't think that we could know.
I hear you. I think there was a lot that was said here that will help you think through how you want to feel about it. I always say this on my social media when I talk about these issues. I think being religious simply is just getting really good at personifying chance. And you have people in most religions, what they've tried to do is codify chance. If we do these things, we can affect reality this way. We can affect nature this way. It's trying to take control of nature and telling a supernatural story about it, but you're really just personifying chance. Or you're trying to make the ways of nature, you're trying to attribute them to a way maker. And I just think if you think about some of the things that we've said, I think you'll see the pattern of human nature, and it'll help you think through some of the religious stuff a little bit better.
Let's stop it here, Ash. Go off and think. Call us back. Call back earlier in the show when you get a chance. Call back with some answers and stuff. Kind of ruminate on it. It'll do you good, and then we don't have to go in circles or anything else.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks a lot for calling. All right, we have like less than 20 minutes before we got to go into supers, but there are several calls. I'm going to try a couple of them that I think may be kind of quick. So, like, Jeremiah's calling from Tennessee. Jeremiah, probably see him, is a theist who says, "Can you prove anything exists?" How you doing, Jeremiah?
Pretty good. How are you, Matt?
Pretty good. I don't have a solution to the problem of hard solipsism. If that is what you're talking about with regard to can you prove something exists, then the answer is no.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a core issue when we're thinking about these things, right? Is like, what can we even prove at all when you're asking people to prove to you that
The
God
thing is,
exists? you
The thing
acknowledge
is,
that we
Jeremiah,
can't prove anything.
Can you prove that anything exists?
Well, I mean, I do believe in certain historical facts that I don't even have direct empirical evidence for. Are you
Wow.
like are you so agnostic about knowledge and so
No,
empiricist that
no,
you
Jeremiah.
reject all
I believe
history?
I don't have a solution to the problem of hard solipsism, and yet I believe and I know that things exist, and I can demonstrate that things exist to other people who use the same criteria. Like, I have a cell phone in
Yeah,
my
and
hand. I'm
in
sorry,
certain
I'm sorry, I'm
historical
still
facts,
talking.
correct?
I'm sorry, I'm still talking. I have a cell phone in my hand. Do you believe that cell phone exists?
Yeah, I believe a lot of
Do
things
you
that
believe,
cannot be
Jeremiah,
proven, like
Jeremiah,
just as you do,
Jeremiah,
right? Like you believe in
Jeremiah,
certain
Jeremiah,
historical facts,
Jeremiah,
correct?
Jeremiah, do you think that I have demonstrated to you that my cell phone exists?
No, and like I said, I don't think there's much demonstration for many historical facts, but I believe them. There's not
Jeremiah, I
empirical
didn't ask.
facts to
Wow,
prove
Jeremiah,
them.
this is so
But if we don't
difficult.
have any
Jeremiah, why are you
history or
even
any
talking? Okay, I'm going to mute you. Listen, I'm trying to figure out whether or not we can even have a conversation. And so far, the answer is absolutely not, because I'm asking very simple questions to get an understanding. And you keep going on about historical facts. I didn't say anything about historical facts. I'm talking about this cell phone. I asked you if you believe that this cell phone exists, and you said yes. My next question is, do you think that I demonstrated to you that this cell phone exists? And you said, no, you can't show historical facts. So let's try this again. I'm going to unmute you. I know there's going to be a beep and you're going to miss part of it, but it won't be anything important. Jeremiah, I'm holding a cell phone. I'm showing it to you. Are you convinced that I have demonstrated this cell phone exists? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Cool. Then the answer to your question about whether or not I can prove anything exists is that colloquially, with a demonstration, yes, and I just did.
Sure. So let's extend that to historical facts. I'm certain that you believe in certain historical facts that you don't have empirical proof of, right?
I'm sure I believe in many things that I don't have empirical evidence for directly.
Right.
If
And
it
yet
matters,
here you are
if it matters,
criticizing
Jeremiah.
people for believing in something for which there's not empirical evidence. I
Ah,
think it's
see,
very
this,
important
what
to
you've
consider
just done.
that we
I'm sorry, I'm going to mute you because you don't know how to stop. What you've just done is an equivocation fallacy. I'm criticizing people for asserting that something exists and is demonstrable without being able to demonstrate it. I'm not criticizing people for believing things from the past. I'm saying there are certain things for which you do not have sufficient evidence to conclude they are true. You and I can agree on this cell phone. You and I can agree that George Washington was the first president of the United States. You and I can agree that we started this call, which is also in the past, by me saying Jeremiah is calling from Tennessee, pronouns are he, him, wants to know if we can prove anything exists. Jeremiah, are you talking about the problem of hard solipsism? We can both agree, because there's a recording, that that is a paraphrasing of that. However, not all claims, not all historical claims are supported by the same surrounding evidence. If you say you got a pet dog, I have a pet dog behind me. It's getting a little restless. If you say you got a pet dog, I believe you because I already have sufficient evidence that dogs exist, that people keep them as pets, that people can have pet dogs. I have one. If you say you got a pet invisible fire-breathing dragon, you're going to need to provide more evidence for that because there's not evidence in the world already for that. It's not extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. It is all claims require sufficient evidence, but some claims are already so sufficiently supported by facts from the world that the mere say-so is sufficient to risk accepting it. When people are saying a God exists, all I'm asking is, what is your reason? And if all they can say is, I got a book and I believe it, that's not good enough. Let's try again. Jeremiah, can you prove that a God exists in the same way I can prove a cell phone exists?
in the same sense that you can prove like you said, that George Washington exists or any other historical facts that we agree upon, you can demonstrate the validity of different religious texts. Specifically, the Bible is well supported historically from
No,
not
Jeremiah,
just one
Jeremiah,
book. It's
Jeremiah,
many sources, more so
Jeremiah,
than any
Jeremiah,
other religion.
Jeremiah, are you saying that the claims in the Bible are as historically reliable as the claim that George Washington was the first president of the United States?
On the spectrum of things that are provable historically and unprovable, I would put the Bible and the claims in the Bible much closer to the George Washington was the first president line than I would to like the Muhammad was God or the prophet of God, right? I mean, some
Oh, I'm sorry.
religions are
So you're
completely
cherry picking.
ludicrous,
So
and
you're cherry picking the Bible.
there's
So
absolutely
when the
no
Bible
basis for
says,
them
when the Bible
whatsoever.
says, when the Bible says that the entire earth was covered in a flood, that is almost as historically reliable as the claim that George Washington was the first president.
Like I said, when it comes to historical reliability and the certainty we can have about those claims, there's certainly a spectrum. You would agree, right? You think
No,
we
Jeremiah,
all
I'm
agree
not.
George-
Okay, I'm not going to play your fucking game, Jeremiah. I'm asking you a very specific question that is designed to expose the absurdity in what you're saying, because you called in to do an equivocation to suggest that I'm mocking people for believing well-established facts. The fact of the matter is, the claim that George Washington was the first president of the United States is not only an entirely mundane claim, but it is one that is supported both by people in the United States and people outside the United States and countless documents, and is not remotely inconsistent with the facts of reality. The claim that the entire earth was covered in a flood violates science, has no evidential support, and is merely a claim in your storybook. It is patently absurd to believe that the global flood, that Noah's global flood, is as historically reliable as George Washington being the first president. Do you have some way to...
There are a large number of stories throughout history about...
Jeremiah, when I bring you back after schooling you like this, I need you to comment on the specific story I'm talking about, the one you were asked about. I don't need you to start talking about a spectrum. I don't need you to start talking about all these other stories. I'm talking about the Noah's flood. Is Noah's flood as scientifically verifiable and as historically reliable as the claim that George Washington was the first president? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, what was that, Matt? I was speaking. Apparently you weren't listening.
You were muted, and you were muted because you were speaking and not listening.
Why am I muted? I've answered literally every question.
You're muted because you won't shut up. You're muted again. Right now, nobody can hear you. I'm going to ask you the question, then I'm going to unmute you. You'll hear a beep, and then the answer that needs to come out of your mouth is yes or no. Is the claim in the Bible of a global flood as historically reliable as the claim that George Washington was the first president of the United States? Yes or no?
No, there's certainly not a consensus on all.
So, Jeremiah, we're done because you don't want to play fair. That was a yes or no, but you couldn't stop yourself. See, the reality is you and many other Bible believers, which, by the way, Brady and I used to be, believe things without good reason.
Yeah.
And you'd like to pretend that your lack of good reason is just, it's just about like my belief. You know, I've never met George Washington, so I'm exercising faith. And if I'm exercising faith, then it's okay for you to exercise faith. But faith is the excuse people give when they don't have a good fucking reason. If you believe something for a good fucking reason, you just say the good reason. You don't talk about the spectrum and the historical, and this is like this, and this is closer to George Washington. This is this is what the consensus is. I'm sorry, but there's never been a verified miracle. I'm sorry, but there's no way to confirm supernatural causation. I'm sorry, but the stories in your storybook are not historically verifiable. You can't point to a single individual in the Bible that we can completely be confident actually existed. We can be strongly confident that there were people who wrote those things. What we know about them, who knows? Whether the stories they're telling are true, who knows? But when we go and investigate, when we investigate things like the order of creation events, the order of creation events in Genesis do not match up with scientific findings. And so they're not scientifically supported, and they're certainly not historically verifiable. The story of Noah's flood, not scientifically possible, not scientifically supported, no empirical evidence for it. And that doesn't stop theists from constantly going out and trying to find Noah's Ark. Definitely not as historically reliable. As a matter of fact, the further back in time you get, the less historically reliable something almost certainly is, merely because there were times prehistory, and there were times where we did not have writing, and there were times where people weren't as literate. Please stop pretending that skeptics are somehow being dishonest by saying, I'm sorry, but your claim of a global flood is not on the same footing as my claim that George Washington was president of the United States. I will, though, give you the last word.
Well, Matt, I didn't claim that you were being dishonest. I've directly answered all of your questions despite being muted for 99% of this call. So I am just curious what historical facts you do believe in. Do you think history provides any sort of guidance for us for how we should behave or how we can succeed in the human endeavor?
I believe many historical facts from history. They're all from history. I don't have time to list them because the show's almost over. I'm not here to do book reports for you, but I don't believe that anything supernatural has ever occurred. I don't believe there's sufficient justification to believe anything supernatural has ever occurred. I have no reason to think there's a God. I do think we can learn lessons from history because we are prone to making the same mistakes again. But I don't think there are any lessons that.
On your view,
I'm sorry.
It's like we can't trust anything anyone said.
I'm sorry. Goodbye. I tried to fucking humor you and answer your question, and you just couldn't not try to jump back in. Here we go. Probably, possibly, the final call for today. We'll see. DB is calling from Canada, who is a theist, pronouns are him, and he says, you should believe in a God. DB, why should we believe in a God?
Because it's true. Primarily because it's true. If it's true, you have to believe in it.
How can we know it's true? How can we know it's true?
So thank you.
DB,
yes,
how can we know it's DB, how can we know it's true?
Oh, exactly. So the reasons I believe it's true, first of all, design. I just think design.
Okay, DB, wait. I'm going to mute you. I don't want to have to do this. I'm going to back off. We only got like 4 minutes left. You're saying we should believe in God. And when I asked why, you said because it's true. And now I want to know, how can we know it's true? I don't care why you believe it's true. I need you to tell me how Brady and I can be confident that it's true. That's all I want to know.
I think there's empirical evidence for it. I think creation is one of them.
I don't care if you think there's empirical evidence, DB. Provide the empirical evidence. I don't know. Is English your first language?
Yeah.
Cool. Then here's the question. What evidence can you provide that you think that Brady and I should be convinced a God exists?
The design is one of them. The design of the universe.
There is no design that points to a God or confirms a God.
A designer or creator doesn't do that?
There is no evidence that points to a designer creator. You've not provided a single bit of evidence. You've just asserted that there is design. What is the evidence for design that points to a creator?
The patterns, the structure, the seasons, birth,
the seasons point to a God. Are you crazy?
A designer, a creator, an architect.
No, it doesn't point to a designer or creator. The seasons occur due to axial tilt with respect to our relation from the sun. That's what causes seasons, not a designer.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So that was just arbitrarily, the axis just was put in place, and the distance from the sun was just arbitrarily in that place, and the Big Bang sort of created this, that life sustains life and so engenders life and all that, just because a
No.
bang just
What happened is what happened is we are the sort of life that can evolve under these circumstances. If the circumstances had been different, perhaps something else would have evolved. But at no point is it confirmation of a designer.
okay, that's fair enough. I'm matching you.
Okay, thank you for saying that's fair enough. When I ask for evidence for a claim, you can't just say design. That's not evidence. That's the claim. You're claiming that the universe is designed. You think there's empirical evidence. I'm going to give you one last shot before we go on to super chats. I want to know a piece of empirical evidence that Brady and I can confirm, which conclusively or nearly conclusively points to there being a God. And I still don't know which God, but what is this empirical evidence?
Human nature. I think we're created in the image of God and human nature.
Goodbye. Goodbye. I would have loved to have gone on with that for longer, and I'm probably going to get in a little bit of trouble that we didn't let that go on to at least get a clip. But it's just mean. It's at this point when you get somebody like DB who doesn't have any understanding of what empirical evidence is and then claims to have empirical evidence. I feel like I'm just picking on people at this point.
Yeah. Well, think about how you used to be as a Christian. Like, I was very accepting of these kinds of claims. I didn't push back. Yep. I was not skeptical. And so I get where they're coming from.
I'm going to do two quick things real quick, and then we're going to do super chat. So the first one, Fernando in Mexico is a theist. Fernando, I apologize. We do not have time to take your call. But it says here that your claim is that there's as good of evidence in favor of God's existence as there is against it. And my answer is no, there's not. But even if there was, that wouldn't be sufficient to conclude that a God exists. But call back another time and explain how that there's just as much evidence. Thank you. And the final one that I'll do a hit and run on, I apologize again, Constantine, we have run out of time. You want to talk about the Holy Spirit and prove God? I would love for you to call back. We do a show on Sundays. I'm here every Wednesday night. I hope that you can find time to call one of those shows. I hope that you can find time to call one of those shows because I'd love to hear more about the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I can't. I'm just on YouTube and I found you guys, and I don't know where you guys are on TikTok or what is this?
This is
right
on
here,
YouTube.
this channel.
It's right here, this channel.
Cool.
We are live right now. I'm live here every Wednesday, but there are other shows on this channel, including Sundays at 2 and Sundays at 7. Call in and tell us all about the Holy Spirit.
All right. Well, it would have been nice to chat for a minute, but thank you guys either way.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry we had to go. We
Two
have
Brady's and two
completely run out of time.
Constantines.
We went from no theist callers to a gazillion T1 theist callers.
Yeah.
Super
Okay,
chats.
I'm gonna move us over to super chats real quick. I gotta say though, Vertical, we have had that was the best pool of theist callers we've had in like over a year. And most of those theists at the end were actually incredibly respectful. So I really hope anyone who didn't make it does call back in because I was really looking forward to hearing any of your calls. So
yeah, I wish I had 2 more hours. Maybe when we start doing this vertical more often, we'll see calls like that. I'm genuinely, first of all, the temptation is to say, fuck you, Jimmy, but thank you, Jimmy. And to everybody else, while I thought this was an epic failure when we first started the show for the first 45 minutes or so, this was a great success. And I'm more optimistic about doing this than ever. I feel better at the end of this show, and not just because Brady was here, than I have at many of the shows. In a year or so. Yeah. Here we go. We'll alternate and run through these. $10 from Joshua Everett 987. Thank you so much, Joshua. Appreciate it. And thanks for the brief message. Makes it easy.
All right. We got $19.99 from Narcissa 800. Thanks for ejecting Ben. The clock is ticking. Idiots wasted. Also, Constantine is fake. This was the first Constantine, not the last Constantine that they're talking about.
Yeah, sorry to the new Constantine, and sorry to the first Constantine. Narcissa also put in a super chat, basically. Oh, yeah, there it is. Constantine, you pretend to be an atheist. No, he didn't, but you're as idiotic as a theist. Well, good job, Narcissa. Also, your accent is fake. I'm going to keep your money, but I'm going to, every time you send us money to shit on somebody like that, and you're wrong, I'm going to shit on you right back.
To completely play devil's advocate for Narcissa, he did tell the screener he was an atheist. He was listed as an atheist, and that came up on the screen. But I appreciate that during the call that's
during the call he changed that. Well, in that case, I apologize
for that part of it. I still think she's wrong that he's fake. His, like you said, his IP was from Greece, and yeah.
Whether his accent's fake or whatever else, his IP was from that. It was wild that it came in that way. So on that case, I withdraw and apologize unreservedly, Narcissa, and thank you.
All right, $9.99 from Greg Markowski, 6747. Thanks for that. Looks like I'm going to the Bosses concert. Oh, in April in Phoenix. You talked about Springsteen earlier in the show.
Yep. Awesome, Greg. I almost wish I could go. Yeah, especially after Streets of Minneapolis. But yeah. Somebody said, yeah, Arden put Matt in his place. Trust me, Arden will always put me in my place. And I will always listen. 5 pounds from Mystic Mind Analysis. What's that?
Always listen is such a lie.
I will always listen. I might not follow through. Mystic Mind Analysis. Alien weaponry are a Morai metal, keeping their oppressed indigenous language alive. They are my inspiration. Listen to Rapatu. I'm assuming this is all banned stuff. Maori metal, alien weaponry seems to be, I'm going to infer that it's a band with a particular Maori style of metal, keeping their indigenous language alive, and that they have a song or an album called Rapatu.
Oh, because we were talking about Rhyme Asylum earlier. Maybe this is in reference to all that.
Sweet. Thank you.
All right. Another 5 pound from Alexander Hurst. Love the poetry, may I? If Jesus truly bore the word, then how could he exist? To taint free will and reign shepherd must be the greatest the sin. So this is an attempt at poetry.
He was cooked, chat.
If Jesus truly bore the word, then how could he exist? To taint free will and reign shepherd must be the greatest sin. So there is a meter to it. That's an interesting thought, to taint free will and reign shepherd, because the sheep, you're sheep. You don't have free will in that sense. You go where the shepherd says. So
that's interesting.
€6 from Satorni IK or Satorni Ik, or I don't know. Hey, Matt, in your opinion, what are the top 3 strongest arguments against Christianity? Have a good day. The argument from inconsistent revelation, the argument from divine hiddenness, and the argument from what the fuck did you just say? It's late. That's the best I'm going to do.
Wow, nice. $49.99 from Infidel. I don't know how you do it. That's all. I don't know how you cats do it.
I don't know either. I am going to pull up my my side thing here. So, Maple's starting to bark. That way Arden can let me know how many super chats we have remaining. So I kind of pace this out.
We've got let's see, 3, 6, 9, 10-ish. So not a ton, but we also have 13 minutes to fill. So we got some time for some extra super chats.
We got 13 minutes to fill. See, normally I see the list in front of me and I can pace my responses so that we get to 9 o'clock or we end and don't run over, but I can't do that as well. So what I'm going to do is treat all of these like they're $500 super chats until Arden tells me to speed it the fuck up. $10 from Ignatius Aist, and the scrolls have foretold of black wings in the cold, that when brothers wage war come unfurled, Alduin, Bane of Kings, ancient shadow unbound, with a hunger to swallow the world. We're all doing poetry.
It's going to turn into a poetry slam tonight, huh?
Here, I said I might do this. I'm going to read you guys the lyrics for
Okay.
Grandpa Was a Liberal. Grandpa was a liberal, so was Johnny Cash. Don't you cross this picket line, blue-collared Democrats. Neither went to college, but they'd take you to school. Grandpa, he wore Carhartt before hipsters made it cool. He knew the devil wears a suit and tie, can't hold a level to save his damn life, walking around the job site like, hey, ain't this gig a blast? Grandpa was a liberal, and he would have kicked your ass. Grandpa was a liberal, and so was JFK, fighting Irish, class-inspiring, home on Labor Day. And they both knew the Russians were surely not our friends. But these days, all these politicians sit there shaking hands. They knew the devil wears a suit and tie, can't hold a level to save his damn life, walking around the job site like, hey, ain't this gig a blast? Grandpa was a liberal, and he would have kicked your ass. Grandpa was a liberal, but his hair wasn't blue. He wasn't covered head to toe in piercings and tattoos. But if you are a liberal, and these things sound like you, Grandpa wouldn't give a shit. He'd still be voting blue, because he knew the devil wears a suit and tie, can't hold a level to save his damn life, walking around the job site like, hey, ain't this gig a blast? Grandpa was a liberal, and he would have kicked your ass.
Who's that by?
That is by Sean Tobin, and the album is called Grandpa Was a Liberal. There's a few other things on there. I tell you, I had a great 3-hour drive listening to protest songs and political songs, going all the way back. And there's some of them. There's one, the name I won't read because it includes the C word. But it's there's some brilliant ones. I might find it in a minute. But
all right, super chat. I don't know if you can see them. Super chats are rolling in even now. More are coming in, so we got to get to it. $5 from Sam T. Mayberry at Dog Waffle. Damn it, I'll give it to you. Don't know what that's about, but
I also
thanks for
missed
the $5
it in
super
chat.
chat.
I was watching chat. I saw that come in. Had no idea what it was about. So
Okay.
sorry, Sam T. Mayberry.
it's probably take my money type thing. $10 from Hank says, Monty's credulous incompetence has pushed me further away from Christianity than I already was. You know, I hope Monty calls back. I get it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I can definitely go hard on some folks. That's why I'm not the only one that does this, and I'm not advocating doing it my way, or that I think there should be lots of voices doing this, but I'm me, and Monty is struggling. And that's one of the reasons why, I mean, tonight was so good with callers eventually, including Monty. Genuinely enjoyed them all and let a couple of them off the hook.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'm cutting my teeth on these shows, Matt. And like I said, in March, I'm going to start taking calls during the day. So appreciate this opportunity.
By August, you'll get the reputation as the world's biggest asshole, and then you'll come to me and how'd you do that?
$10 from Ignatius Aist. God showed himself to me, and then I showed myself to him, all of myself.
And then you got arrested and hauled out of the Piggly Wiggly. $10 from Squirrel Knitter. Ham and pan story. Family always cut off the ends of the ham. Child asks why. Well, mom did that. Mom, oh, my mom did that. Child, grandma, why? Cut off the ends. And grandma said, oh, my pan was always too small. Yep. We built a tradition of you need to cut the ends off the ham. And it turns out it's because somebody else had a pan that was too small.
Sam
Institutional memory.
Said the reason he sent the super chat was because they said they'd bet that one of the callers was going to crash out in 5 minutes, and then you called them out for crashing out within 5 minutes. So they were paying
so he paid up.
That was nice.
Okay. Let me see here. $5 from Space Barbarian. Science and technology that people are ignorant of is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great quote.
Arthur C. Clarke's axiom, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. $5 from Blue Lear. I live in Austin. Hey, I just saw a commercial that said Republicans are funding Jasmine Crockett because they want her to win. Hope she beats the Repubs. Yeah. Let them. It's like people used to point out, we post videos on our channel and Christian organizations and churches would run ads on our shows. And I'm like, let them. If they're paying to advertise on my show, I won.
Nice. Ad revenue. $20 from Darth Willow. Thought I was about to say Darth Dawkins up here. Darth Willow, okay. I suspect more people have died due to ignorance than to all other causes of death combined. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I just saw a herbal healer, somebody who hawks herbal home remedies, all that, spewing false information about biopsies causing cancer cells to spread. And underneath that claim were people jumping on saying, I never got one and now I never will. So it's like, okay, now you're going to take this information that you haven't vetted and you're going to use that to stay away from modern medicine. Okay, cool.
Hey, you know what? When you're dead, you won't be able to get a biopsy either. Yeah. THB 1800 from Science Lover 999. Matt, I'm a big fan. My brother's a Christian theist. I'm an absolute atheist. My 95-year-old mom is on the fence and doesn't fear hell, but rather nothingness. Do you or Brady have a suggestion to ease her anxiety and what I hope are peaceful final years? Why spend your last moments worrying about something if you don't know of any way to change or fix it? If God doesn't come to you and say, here's how you fix this, and you've asked, not your problem anymore. He either isn't real or he doesn't care. Either way, you're going to get a very short amount of time left with your kids. I mean, let's face it, at 95, I might not finish this sentence. Just do the best you can. And if God's not good with you doing the best you can, fuck him. I get that's probably not everybody's advice, but
I would say the best defense against bad education is good education. You were taught about hell from the religious, be taught about hell from the people who studied religions, and they could tell you where it came from, and it would remove some of the fear and anxiety you have about it when you know where it came from. $9.99 from Jimmy Snow. No. Oh, yeah, it's from Jimmy Snow. My life is a series of people being tempted to tell me, fuck off.
I'm not tempted. I'll tell you straight up. $5 from the Atheist Mechanic. Much love to everyone on the line. Great show tonight. Thank you so much. I couldn't be happier. Like, if we could repeat this show tomorrow, well, I need to get work done. But apart from that, I would do it again tomorrow.
I can't see the next one. Oh, it's a repeat of the same one? $5? Okay. $9.99 from Rob Lifton. I don't have anything to add other than a little cash. So here you go.
I gotta go back 1 second. I'm sorry. $5 from Evil Banana Wind. Matt, how heavy is the crown of Final Boss? It floats. It floats above. It has zero weight. It is never a burden.
Nice. $99 from Thurgood. That's my guy from my channel, Ichabod. Thurgood says, be good, and Matt D, the dynamic duo. Appreciate you, my man.
Yeah. All of a sudden, my computer's acting weird. Best of luck to Ash. Keep questioning, keep thinking. Definitely. Thank you so much, Green Biosu 31 OSU. 31 OSU. There we go. I was like, I've tried to be too clever and thought the 3 was going to be a B or an E, but nope, it's 31 OSU. And it even says it on your icon. There's the OSU thing there.
All right, 5 from Joshua Everett says the glitch wiped my first chat. LOL. That was a decent batch of theists today. Well, better than we've been getting. Thanks for everything.
I don't know how many we got left, but I have one
They're
more
still
song
rolling
lyric.
in. They're still rolling in. I'm watching them come in.
Oh, okay. If there's time, I got one more song lyric. Now I'm seeing check text.
That might be to me. I just realized I got 3 texts from Jimmy. You should check yours too, I guess, but
I don't have any text.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
There you go.
$5 from Lord Ben, 6584. Jeremiah was being rather hormonal and sensitive near the end of his call. Also a global flood truther. Read a damn geology textbook, Jeremiah. I'd recommend calling into one of the mini shows with scientists who are going to go into detail and debunking it, including those on Skeptalk from time to time.
Sorry, 1 second. Because, sorry.
Well, while you're 1 seconding, and since we get to go a little over, I don't want to skip this. There's somebody you all should look into. Her name is Carsie Blanton. Carsie Blanton, Blanton. And her song, which is not the other one I was referring to, is called Ugly Nasty Commie Bitch. And the lyrics go, in the morning when I leave my den, I moisturize with the tears of men, stir my tea with a crucifix. I'm an ugly, nasty commie bitch. In the evening when I'm on the rag, I rip up a couple American flags, take a nice hot bath in the blood of the rich. I'm an ugly, nasty commie bitch. I try to think, but it hurts my brain, so I have an abortion and a fine champagne. I'm a Jezebel. I'm the wicked witch. I'm an ugly, nasty commie bitch. Weekends when I want some fun, castrate a man, take away his guns, drive a classic car into a ditch. I'm an ugly, nasty commie bitch. I know I am, but what are you? Some fascist bootlick Nazi tool? A whiny boy with a tiny dick or a dumb fuck redneck backward hick? Did I get it right? Have I pegged you yet? Maybe we don't know who we ain't met. Maybe nobody wins, but the already rich if you're a dumb redneck and I'm a commie bitch.
Wow. I love good lyricism. That was great.
I love that so much. I listened to it like 12 times. Plus she does it rapid and fun.
Oh, really? Nice.
It's great.
All right, $5 from I Sell My Soul. Some Christian just logged off just by hearing that. J. Harold Smith had evidence that God killed people for blaspheming the Holy Ghost or refusing to get saved when he begged them to. You debunk that? Question mark.
Had evidence that God killed people for blaspheming the Holy Ghost or refusing to get saved. You debunk that. I don't know how to debunk just a claim, especially a claim that's unfalsifiable. I don't know what evidence somebody would have, but cool. I look forward to seeing it. $10 from Nexus Spectre 8473. Hashtag Team Arden. Hashtag go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Hashtag is that gay for Jimmy? And hashtag
gay for Justin and rock hard for Doug.
Gay for Justin and rock hard for Doug. Wait a minute. Now, hang on. Nexus Spectre, you just called into my show. Super chatted into my show when Brady's here. And you mentioned Arden, Jimmy, Justin, and Justin's fucking rock and none of us. You're awesome. Give me another $10.
I think that is the last
I'll
one.
read almost any bullshit you want.
Let me double check, scroll through that. It's the last one. But also, Brady, if you want to plug any of your stuff, now would be a good time.
I don't know how long after the show people are saying this, but this Friday on my channel on Icopod, I am starting a new series called Sex After Faith. So I got a series called Life After Faith where we talk about our deconversion stories, but now we'll be talking about Sex After Faith, and I'm so looking forward to this series. 8 o'clock Eastern on Icopod.
Awesome. And when you start going live, come on back. We'll promote it again. We'll have some fun. We'll do it all. Huge thank you to Brady for joining me this week. I couldn't have asked for more. Always happy to have you here. And to Arden for producing, to all of you for tuning in, to Jimmy and Arden for doing the outstanding extra work of getting us in vertical format and getting us some new callers, to all of you for putting up with my reading of song lyrics and offering up some super chats and everything else. You guys are awesome. The calls tonight were great. I couldn't be happier. Please vote. Go out, participate, get involved, do your research, find out who best represents your values, find out who's most likely to get elected, find out who you'd like to be better, and call them and let them know. Trust me, I've called enough politicians and chewed their asses out over the last month that I might take a month or so off from doing that because I just like to vote and take a breath. We are at a crossroads, and revolution or change has to come. Be a part of it. Patreon.com/